man, got that tractor beam out of commission, or this is going to be a real short trip. Okay, hit it!
What's up, everyone? We are back with another collector spotlight.
Probably the collector spotlight.
Yeah, this one's gonna be crazy. Been looking forward to this for a while. So, Jason, you want to take this away here?
Yeah, just good evening, guys. I know we're a little bit late here on the East Coast, but we're joined by somebody who technically needs no introduction. Sure. If you're a Star Wars collector, you know exactly who we have, which is Gus Lopez. Gus, thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah,
and yeah, definitely, we appreciate it, and we're gonna get into some good stuff. You know, just cover some really unique and interesting things. It's, you know, we see a lot of things from time to time, but I think this is the one time where we're gonna see a lot of standout pieces and get to get a little bit of background on those things as we kind of scroll through. So yeah, we're excited for this one, and I hope everybody, you know, watching and in chat is just as excited as we are.
Yeah, looking forward to this. So Gus, can you just I know people probably know a lot about you as a collector, but let's just kind of give them a brief, like, how did you get into collecting Star Wars and kind of getting together what you kind of have today?
Yeah, happy to give the background. Yeah, and I never presume that anybody knows anything about my collecting habits. I know some do, but yeah, I mean, like many other people, you know, Star Wars hit me growing up and just super impactful. And for me, it was like in the early 90s when they were going through this like sort of renaissance of Star Wars. Like they had the Dark Empire comics and you know, had the Zahn books, and so you know, there was a lot. And then there was also the emergence of the internet news groups around Star Wars. So there was just sort of this resurgence of interest in Star Wars from people who had grown up with it. And I had as a kid collected stuff. I saved all my like loose action figures and ships and vehicles, all this. And so I was always into Star Wars in a pretty intense way, even back in the day. And I had saved it actually over the years. I knew I liked the stuff. I never threw it out. But yeah, it was like in the early 90s, I just got really interested in saying, okay, I want to like really get back into that and collect it and complete the action figures I didn't have. That was my initial goal. In fact, I told my wife, who's my girlfriend at the time, I told her, you know what, I'm just going to get the rest of the action figures I didn't have, and then I'll just stop. And of course, she reminds me of this all the time.
I love it. I'll just stop.
After that. But,
we all tell our wives something. We all tell them something.
So yeah, it started there, and then actually ended up completing that goal in about a month, and so I was on to new goals. That's been my theme ever since. It's just, you know, I'm not in any rush. I'm not in any competition. For me, it's like I just chase what I'm interested in, and that has caused me to seek out novel things people don't know about, things that are obscure. Like, you know, I mean, I think a lot of people look at what I collect and say, oh, it's like this rare stuff or high-end stuff. It's like, that's actually not the thing that motivates me. It's just discovering stuff. And in some cases it ends up being the rare stuff, but other cases it's stuff I collect that no one else cares about, but it's just kind of obscure. So anyway, over the years that's unfolded to like, you know, go on to new areas of collecting as I explored that.
That's crazy.
Oh, fantastic.
So did you do a progression of like start with your figures and then move to, let's say, like we all started with figures, 6 scale, statues, 1-to-1 props. Is that kind of how you were, or did you go from figures all the way up to props right away?
Similar progression. Props took me a while. So, you know, I started with the loose action figures, and you know, then was getting all the vehicles and play sets. And then what I started to do was place ads in the newspaper. And this is like in the early to mid 90s. I put ads in the newspaper to buy collections, and I would just go all around my area in Seattle area, and I would just drive all over the area to buy up collections. In fact, the sort of cliche story is the kids that went off to school and the parents sold their collection. Like I was the guy buying up those collections. So I would
call Gus.
Yeah. But in doing that, that was a really eye-opening thing for me. So, you know, there was a few pivotal things. I think one was that, so just buying collections, you saw wow, 95% 5% of kids were way more spoiled than I was. They had way more toys than I did, because you'd see these collections like, damn, they had a big collection. And then, but it exposed me to other things. I'd see like the Don Post helmets or ceramics or or they'd have like trading card stuff. Or it just varied from sort of collector to collector.
Sure.
So I got exposed to a lot of areas of collecting, and then and it also allowed me to amass so much stuff that I would just then sell the stuff that I had excess of, so I could fund buying other things. And so that for me was very eye-opening. I think the other thing was at the time, you really had like sort of people who grew up with Star Wars were the first generation to ever be connected online. And so it was just sort of very interesting change in Star Wars collecting, because a lot of the big collections, the big collectors in Star Wars were the people that were a bit older when Star Wars first came out. I mean, there were people that, maybe like older, they were in like their 30s, say, when Star Wars came out.
Right.
But they weren't really the generation that connected online first. It was really the kids who grew up with Star Wars.
Right.
So it was just this incredible multiplier effect to like connect with people all over the world, share information. And that was sort of a thing I contributed to, but also benefited from. And that just opened up avenues. And so for me, the progression was like loose figures. I got to like, I would buy collections, and in that I'd have boxed toys and carded figures. And then, a few years after that, I was like, okay, I love the vintage Kenner stuff. I want to get into prototype. I want to get into what didn't they make, and what, learn more about how they designed the toys. So, a lot of times, and this is sort of the theme I do in my collecting, is that there aren't really any rules. I think a lot of collectors are much more regimented. They follow what everybody else is doing. And I'm like, make up the rules yourself. So like, for example, I had told some friends, I'm going to fly to Cincinnati. I'm just going to like look up some Kenner people and meet. And nobody was doing that at the time. And I remember a couple of friends thought it was nuts. Like, you're going to waste all this time and money to go to Cincinnati. It's, first trip, come back with a ton of stuff. And then it was like, this seems like something to be doing, So anyway, that was, I started to then, get prototype things, and the other thing I was doing, the collecting evolves, especially with, in terms of like the technology, right? Like in the 90s, it was like it was Toy Shop magazine was what everybody read through newsprint. And then it sort of switched to eBay, and it's continued to evolve. Now there's a lot of stuff on Facebook. Toy shows are coming back.
Instagram,
yeah. So, but anyway, it was like prototypes. Was a really fun thing, and then props. It took me a while. I had friends who collected props. I was aware of the prop community. I knew there were Star Wars props out there fairly early, but I was a bit turned off by it actually at first, because. Just sort of I I had met, not all of them, a lot of prop collectors who've done it for a long time are wonderful, but some of them, it was just, there was a bit of it was not as inclusive of a collecting community, I'll put it that way, at first.
Sure.
And then as people who grew up with Star Wars started to get into it, then I felt the prop, for me, a lot of it was as a community, an inviting community. And then at one point, by like circa 2000, it started to become that way, where a lot of people who grew up with Star Wars were getting into the props, and then I started to get really into it around that time. I had a few things before that, but it took me a while to finally get there. And I think it's an important thing in collectors. Like, a lot of collectors are in such a rush to like go to like some advanced area. For me, I just sort of took my time when it was natural.
Well, it's like people trying to fill their shelves, right? I mean, that's
yeah. There's no rush.
At that point in the early 2000s, a lot of people were starting to get on the internet and able to access those props, whereas before it was just a small community of people who knew each other and knew where to go for those things.
Yeah, yes. I was actually I was telling Matt today, Gus, going back to like the SWCA and Rebel Scum and even some of the other subboards, how like there was no MySpace, Facebook, or even before the days of eBay. It was one of these things where like people would put out flyers and photocopy, and we would exchange information that way. And, I remember being 17, 18 years old. And I think I remember, was it you who had found the original, the tricolor rocket firing Boba, like randomly on eBay at first? Yeah, I remember like when that news hit, and the internet was just kind of creeping at that time. And it was just, it was so different because you didn't have a lot of information to consume, and there wasn't a lot of avenues. So it was a lot of networking and relationship building.
Plus, and at that point, until that point, you didn't know what was really out there and what wasn't until you started seeing it more on the internet and people talking.
It was just
more.
A chance. Yeah, so building those relationships. Yeah.
And question, Gus, do you think you could, if you started now, do you think you would be able to get anywhere near what you have currently? I mean, it seems like things have gone prices have just gone crazy, right?
Yeah, it would be different. I mean, I think it's a good, interesting, actually, thought exercise. Like I and it's sort of difficult in a way, sort of difficult to answer about oneself without sounding, But I have described friends of mine who are like, very advanced collectors. Like, I do think collecting involves a lot of luck, but a lot of it, there's skill, and there are a lot of aspects of skill to collecting. People think it's like, oh, if you get a lot of money, you're good as a collector. Actually, no, a lot of collectors have a lot of money and are terrible at collecting because you do. I think actually being on a budget forces you to understand and prioritize and prune. I think being unconstrained on budget, while we would all love that, I think not having honed your skills as a collector when you were constrained on budget can actually make it hard for you to prioritize and in my opinion. But anyway, I think collecting has a lot of different skills. One of them I sort of alluded to earlier is thinking out of the box about where to find stuff. One is your relentlessness of chasing down leads and just being. Some people just try things superficially and don't push forward to just really try from multiple angles to try to close something. There's negotiating skills, of course.
Right.
There's knowledge and background of understanding what things are and what the value is. I think there's also a skill of knowing when to strike. Like most, like a lot of people, will focus on like high-end pieces I have and stuff, but like 95% of what I buy is cheap, and I'm very cheap about most things. It's just I also know when to splurge. And I think if you look at the history of a lot of stuff I've picked up, it was stuff that at the time people told me, wow, you're spending way too much. And then a few years passed and I go, man, you were so lucky to have bought that for so cheap.
Of course,
it's knowing, just getting a good sense of like, now's a good time to strike. Never going to see this again, or it's going to be a long time before this comes up again. It's going to be 10 times as much when it comes up.
Right.
Knowing when to splurge. But then on the averaging out that you're not spending too much because you're cheap the other time. So there's a whole bunch of skills. And so anyway, what I say in answer to the question is, some friends of mine who are pretty advanced collectors, like you could put them in, I don't know, rural Mongolia, and you could have them start with a blank slate. I guarantee in 10 years they have awesome Star Wars collections. People say, oh, you're lucky if you're in this city, and you're lucky if you were at the right time. I think that they're just skilled, and they would naturally, over time, have an amazing collection because they have the skills.
No, that's well said. We were talking, going through the images earlier. Me and Matt were talking, and I said, you don't get a collection like this based on pretty much like you said. You can have tens of millions of dollars. It doesn't matter. I said a lot of it is being strategic. Very strategic, because if it isn't available or accessible, you can't, it doesn't matter how much money you have. You got to be able to do things, the right way. So it's, getting ready to get into some of these images. It's going to be really interesting to, just see some of these pieces. And
a lot of the stuff I have has never been on the open market. So it's like, it doesn't matter how much money you have. Like, you would never have been able to buy it if you didn't.
Exactly.
Plus, you need to know how to sweet talk somebody who doesn't really want to let go of something.
Yeah. And on that point, ironically, there are different people have different strategies and stuff. I am usually a real straight shooter with people, tell them what it is that I, can, convince them through actual facts. So like, I'm actually very into this, and I save things generally. I mean, I do let go of things too, but like, I'm just pretty much a straight shooter, which actually turns out for me to work pretty effectively. Others try other angles. I have friends who lowball and get some amazing deals once in a while, and also pass on a lot of great stuff because they're lowballing.
Right. But you have to know when to lowball and when not to lowball, because if something comes up that you may not see again, you got to know the price of it and jump on it before 10 other people will.
It's also about who you know, but who knows you as well, right? There's people that know you collect Star Wars and know that they know somebody else is doing something, getting rid of something, and I know Gus wants Star Wars stuff, right? So it's all about that too as well.
At this stage,
relationship,
because I get a lot of incoming. Like, I don't have as much free time because you noticed about scheduling me. But like, the good thing is, back 20 years ago, I had lots of free time, and I invested a lot of time in finding stuff. That has, paid off, because now people find me, and so it does make it easier to find stuff.
Right. For sure, for sure. Well, let's go into some images. We're going to start with prototypes. These are super crazy. So let's get into some of these. You kind of want to talk us through some of these, Gus?
Yeah. So like some what you see here, are some of the 12-inch action figures from Kenner, and pretty much everything in this shot is something. These are things that were never released by Kenner, and so many of these examples they might have made 3 or 4 of each. The boxes and the large size action figures. I particularly love the Empire Strikes Back ones because they were going to put Han, Luke, and Leia in new packaging and new outfits. And so, but yeah, these are just, and a lot of this stuff in this shot, and this is common with a lot of my prototype stuff. So the general approach I would take in my prototype collecting is I particularly love the unproduced stuff, but I would find like one example, like the first one I had in this shot is the Han Hoth outfit. And it would just be like through years of kind of working with different people, I was able to assemble the set. So you have in this shot, you have the 6 sort of outfits for Luke and Leia on the lower left. And then you have the 3 Empire Strikes Back outfits, and then the Lando outfit towards the middle on the right. So it was just many Kenner people over years able to source it together. And so at the end of the day, I'd say maybe about 2 of the pieces in the shot were a splurge, and most of them were really like sickeningly cheap.
Oh man,
yeah,
that's crazy. And like the prototype, like the heads that aren't even.
Oh yeah, there's like sculpts and first shots of some of the heads.
Crazy.
So were those like
classic,
kind of? Go ahead, Jason.
Sorry. I was gonna say even the classic figure carrying cases that you see above.
Oh yeah. There's just some prototypes of like Vader and C-3PO action figure cases shot into like different colors.
Gus, were those ones on the second shelf? Were they like kind of like Barbie, where you dress them in different outfits and stuff? Is that what that was the base of that was? Okay.
That was the idea that they were going to sell them in accessory packs where like you had a Luke or Leia or Han.
Wow.
You dress them up in the outfit.
So weird.
2 of the outfits were like Luke X-Wing, Luke Ceremonial. So they had two of the 6 outfits they had planned were movie outfits, and then they had 4 other just sort of fashion outfits.
Like spacesuit Luke, like spacesuit Luke and freaking scuba diver Luke. It's crazy.
Yeah, they were probably on the town.
It's crazy. This is cool.
Yeah, these are some pieces. And I sort of mentioned earlier, I actually let go of things for time. I actually recently sold the Yoda run here, except for what you see here. What I kept of this was the Yoda you see to the left side. That's the talking Yoda prototype. So what I love is the unproduced toys, and the one on the left is the final sort of toy that they were going to take to market for the Empire Strikes Back, but they never released. And it's like a pull string Yoda that talks. It has a very good voice, as a recording, recordings from the movie. And so for the technology of the time, it's actually pretty good. But like many pieces, like this prototype stuff is in so high demand that every once in a while I'll let go of things to like fund another prop purchase or something.
Oh, sure.
I did. And so the ones that are earlier stages, which you see to the right, which include like some hard copies and sculpts of the hands and feet, and the head, and then like different kind of just early stages of the doll design, and so another collector wanted even more than me, and so then I sort of let go of it, and then then there's there's a lot of cool stuff in the shot. I mean, there's like you see some presentation boards of like. That were for the Power of the Force concept. There's like a mock-up of the droids lightsaber box that actually said Power of the Force at the time. There's some signed samples of the die-cast vehicles. And there's like a mold.
Crazy.
What's on the bottom right? Those 2 white squares.
Yeah, that's the micro collection molds. So those are 4-up molds for the micro collection. Of course, were the small metal figures. They sculpt them at 4 times the scale. Nice. And so that's a silicone mold for that.
So cool,
gorgeous.
What are these guys?
These are for coins. So when they make the coins for the Kenner coins, the aluminum coins, they what they do is they sculpt them at a larger scale. I think it's 6-to-1 scale, and then they sort of reduce it with what as a result of the process, there's a lot of artifacts that come out of it. So most of them were sculpted in plaster, and then they made a urethane hard copy. So what they would do is they take like an imprint of it, and it's a sort of combination. It's basically a hard copy of the sculpt. So
yeah, that's crazy.
An image of it, and then they will make a positive. What they do is a few stages where they make another positive image, and they try to then get the curvature of the coin. So anyway, as a result of this, there were 2 companies that Kenner outsourced the coin production to. So one was Osborne Coin in Cincinnati, and then Worldwide Mint in Minneapolis. And so my friends and I contacted the owners of both of those companies and pretty much bought them out of everything they had, which included coin dies, the hard copies, the soft copies. So these are the big pieces are the large sort of imprints of the coins, and then so this is like the sail skiff coin, and then the sort of metal cylinders you see there are the dies, the coin dies, so that they're struck sort of 1-to-1 scale. It's just an amazing amount of coin stuff. We also got artwork for some of the coins, and we paid them good money for it, but we also got a lot of stuff. And so that was an example of like, just trying to be creative and going like, hey, let's find out.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Contractors, let's go find them and see if they're interested in selling what they got. And instead they said no. Both places said no initially. It was just sort of kept on it, kept the relationship going.
What figure was this coin supposed to be for?
Yeah, this would probably have been various Jabba's henchmen. So it might have been for like Weequay and Barada. Barada had his own, I guess. Any of the characters that were sort of in Jabba's court that didn't already have a coin. So I would say like Weequay for sure, Nikto probably. Yeah, some of those guys.
That's so cool.
Oh, interesting. Gus, looking at pieces like this as we go forward, I just had a question. So when you go for something that's really arbitrary, especially at that time, before collecting became what it is today, or even something like ephemeral, or did you ever notice that thinking outside the box and getting into something like that would sort of kickstart other people in the community to say, oh, well, this is available, let me go for it?
I mean, I realized it could have that effect, sort of accident at first. I mean, there were very early, I did notice, it was like mid-90s. I remember some friend, I forgot the specifics of it, but the friend was commenting, it was just something I was saying on news groups about something. And this friend was telling me, like, you do realize like what you're saying can have a big influence on the community. I'm like, what are you talking about? We're just people talking in a news group. I was really naive about it. But then I started to see the effects, like by 2000 stuff, when I was doing things on my website, you could see not to say that the stuff we did on the Collector's Archive was the reason that prototype collecting took off in Star Wars, but it certainly played a part in it. And I've seen it in other areas. Like there were some areas that for years no one cared about. Like I would say, like cereal box collecting, food collectibles, in general, or cast and crew items. There were years and nobody cared about that stuff. There was just a handful of collectors into that stuff. And in general, if stuff came on the market, it was no competition for it. But then, from like publicizing it and stuff, you could tell that had an impact on it wasn't the only way they were learning about it, but I think exposing people to the stuff gets them to go, hey, that's kind of a cool area to collect.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay.
And I think part of the fun is for me is figuring out what do I like to collect that no one's explored, and it's not motivated by trying to influence people. Like I'm perfectly content with nobody else collecting it. Like for example, I collect celebrity yearbooks of the Star Wars cast and crew. So I have like their high school and college yearbooks. I could try to find, there's a whole sort of area of collecting of people who collect celebrity yearbooks. And so I've done that for Star Wars cast and crew, and I have a lot of them.
That's awesome.
And I don't know anyone else who collects those. I just collect those, but they're kind of awesome. And I have a pretty good library.
It's a great idea. It's a great
Gus,
idea.
I've found over the years that as one category of collectibles gets bought up and goes up in price, it seems like the whole community starts to switch to another one. Let's say everybody wanted the carded figures, okay, and then they all move to prototypes, and then they all move to first shots, and then they all move to vehicles. It just seems like that's what happens. There's nobody buying that stuff until of one category has been bought up and prices have gone crazy, they move to the next category.
Yeah. There's a natural. Yeah, for me, I've done that where I've not switched, but it's sort of the emphasis. Like, so when the prototypes started to get crazy in prices, although now in hindsight at the time, so I'm talking like 15 years ago, I thought, oh my God, they're so expensive. Although now a bargain by today's prices. Like, I was like, well, now people are paying for toy prototypes. Well, you could get like a major screen use prop for, and so I let go of some toy prototype things to fund, getting a prop thing. I'm like, wow, I could parlay that into props. And then fortunately I did that in props in that time, and that took off even more in some cases. So it wasn't planned as an investment or anything, but I think a lot of people do that switching because they're like, this thing I used to collect is now super expensive, so I can't buy it as much anymore. Right. And I could let go of a few of these pieces and really buy something, get a lot of leverage in some other areas. So I think it's natural. I think it's a natural part of collecting, by the way, to prune your interests. Like, there are things I used to collect I don't longer collect. So, for example, a lot of screen use original prop collectors, there are different paths that led them there. For me, it was mostly toys, but a lot of them get there through replica props. It's another path that they get there. And I used to have some replica props, but like at one point I'm like, it's kind of confusing if I have replica props with real props. Like, so I got rid of all my replica props, and it wasn't even for the money. It was just more for the space and to avoid the confusion to people seeing the collection. And so I think pruning and changing your interest is a very natural part of collecting. I actually think collectors are too rigid about it. It's sort of an impediment because you feel like stuck. I used to have the newer toys. I used to collect that since 95. I was collecting it for about 15 years, but it just took up so much space that I was just like, all right, I can't. It just was a waste of space because I had so many unique things that were getting displaced by that.
Well, Jason, you say this a lot where as collectors as all of us go through collecting, we kind of get to a point where we start to curate things, right? We start to go, okay, well, we just can't. We don't have space for everything. We don't have money for everything. You have to get to that point where you're starting to really pick what you love and what it just is what it is.
Yeah,
so.
I say that always. It becomes, as you go further in that transition point, it becomes less about the collecting or amassing, and it becomes more about curating overall what you're doing and how you're, choosing and selecting. So yeah, I think it's, it's one of those things that whether people assume they'll be there or not, it's almost an inevitable place that you reach.
Yep.
But, it's great.
All right, let's keep this going, guys. So let's go through this one.
Prototype stuff. Like, there's some sculpts of various action figures there. And other stages like the Man series. So you can see the painted hard copy first shot. There's a signed sample. Some of them like the EV99, there's like wax sculpts of that. And then there's also some EV99 pieces, right? So yeah, there are not a whole lot of wax sculpts of the action figures out there,
right?
And but over the years, just found them from a few different sources, and those are really hot right now. I mean, obviously they're one of a kind sculpture of the action figure. So for many people, it's the ultimate thing.
It's crazy.
In action figure collecting, and so but there's incredible demand for them now.
That's awesome.
Wow.
And yeah, I like the two different sort of concept sketches from Kenner. Particularly the Boba Fett one's kind of awesome because it's from, I don't know if you can see in the photo, but it's from April 1978. So, what's cool about that is you think about it's like 11 months after Star Wars came out, they already had toy concept sketches for The Empire Strikes Back, and it's of course the early sort of Joe Johnston influenced. Design for Boba Fett, where it's like sort of a white stormtrooper, like with a it looks like a Mandalorian, but it's in a white costume. But yeah, it's just an awesome piece. But this was for the 12-inch figure, and when we found it was actually in a series of different sketches for 12-inch figures. There were ones for like Han and Luke and so on. And so this was. I just love it just for the timing of it, and that's such an early concept sketch for 12-inch.
Is that cut out and placed, or is that on an actual black background?
Yeah, it's I think I have to go check it.
It looks cut out. Looks like
it's cut out and then pasted. So it's hand.
What a beautiful way of displaying it.
Yeah.
I really like that. It's cool.
Paste it on top.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, and this
Wow.
shelf has a whole bunch of stuff. Like,
Where do you
okay,
begin?
things from like, yeah, there's an Empire Strikes Back display stand that was a mock-up for Toy Fair when they were interested in the Empire line. You see a basically a 2-up of the die-cast Star Destroyer. There's a whole bunch of micro pieces in the lower shelves. You see like a lot of unreleased micro collection stuff in the lower shelf. Like you see like the Power Droid and Jabba, different poses of Han and C-3PO. There are molds there of 2-1B. So a lot of micro collection stuff in the lower half. And then the middle shelf, you see like Luke in an X-Wing outfit. There's a sculpt and a hard copy from the Dagobah playset. There's a Wampa next to him.
Crazy.
Amazing. Sorry, this is amazing. I got to ask a silly question. Have you ever had some, a guest or company over the house? And because, I mean, you're almost living in a museum, so to speak, where they're just like, oh, Star Wars, yeah, that's cool. Like, just take no interest in it. Or people, have you ever had, because you would assume that every reaction would be, wow. But has anybody ever had the opposite where they're just like, eh?
Surprisingly, yes. So, we've had a lot of people over. So you have the whole spectrum. There's very few people that just were ho-hum about it. That's pretty unusual. I can't even think of an example of that. There's some people that, not many, I can count them on one hand, who just sort of negative on it, like just sort of making fun of it and thinking it's ridiculous. But what I find fascinating is that people even not into it and people who think collecting is silly and stuff, when you do it at a certain scale, it puts it in a whole other context of like, I mean, who knows? Maybe the second they leave the house, they're like, this guy's a hoarder.
This guy's a nut.
Yeah. But most people leave, even if they're not into Star Wars or into collecting or whatever, leave, sort of, there's makes an impression on them. And there's lots of cases of, to me, the most fun is somebody who comes over who's sort of into Star Wars. They heard about my collection and want to come see it, but had no idea of the scale and of the, like, and then there are a bunch of examples of this, like from people who brought their family over and had no idea what they were going to walk into. To, years back, I was doing like a book signing in another city, and I invited some folks at 501st that were attending that. I don't think they really knew much about. I said, if you're up in Seattle, come visit me, and they took me up on it, and they're just like, oh my god, like they had like no idea what they were stepping into. So it's like it's fun to do that. That's my favorite thing when you get a person.
I wonder unknowingly how many people left and became started I might want to get a little piece here or there, and then now they a few years later they have a collection building up. I wonder if that's ever. You never know. It's
I have to think. I mean, it's hard to point it to like one collector that inspired, but it's like, yeah, I think for sure. I mean, I can definitely look at local community and other. You can see people riff off each other, and I do too. I mean, I love looking at people's collections because I find it inspirational because it's just new viewpoints on sometimes the same stuff or sometimes things I already know exist, but just to me, the way people curate and display and all that can be very inspiring. And to me, and I say this all the time, like the only collections I find not interesting are the people that follow a pattern that everybody else follows. Like if people bring their own sort of angle to it or their own interest to it, it's always interesting to me. Yep. But when it's sort of like, I buy this because everybody else buys this, it's just like, I've seen that before. I mean, it doesn't do much.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Are you particularly interested in the Droids and Ewoks stuff?
I do love the Droids and Ewoks line. It's not, it's not as main. It has there are a lot of unproduced toys from the Droids and Ewoks line, so you see it represented in the prototype room quite well.
And you have the White Witch, right?
I do have the White Witch. It's not in this photo, but it now is on the same shelf you're looking at right now. But yes.
Okay.
You see the rocket?
A couple of rocket, forward-facing rocket firing. One painted too, right? One that looks like
there's one, that's the finished. There's one that's the blue sort of first shot with unpainted, and then painted one, the J slot one. And there was one in an yesterday that went for quite a bit of money.
Is that White Witch in one of these pictures?
It might be. I don't know which pictures you loaded, but I do have it online. That put it
nice. That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Gorgeous.
Crazy.
And yeah, there's
that stuff.
a bunch of stuff, micro collection stuff. And you can see some of the things we were talking about earlier, like the Java and the Power Droid. Yeah, I love the Power of the Force blasters in the lower left. So those are sort of unreleased, blasters.
That's so cool.
That they were going to do late in the line. And yeah, then there's like the thing to the lower right, the action figure set. That's like a sort of an early box design for the 3-packs. So they were going to have like a cellophane cover over them, and so that's just an early piece there.
What's the significance of the Weequay figure? Because I know that Bib Fortuna is non-existent, not really.
Says,
what's that?
Nameplate says Skiff Guard. It doesn't say Weequay.
Oh, okay.
The proof card for Weequay. It's sort of like there's a bunch of Return the Jedi proof cards, but I always loved the Weequay one because it was they actually named the character a different thing.
Mm-hmm. I like that Bib Fortuna. That's gorgeous.
Yeah. And that's an awesome piece. Like I love the sort of unreleased Power of the Force cards.
Yeah.
But back in the day, when they were cheaper, although they were, I know I didn't get into them early enough, but like I just wanted an example of an unreleased one, and so that I always thought the Bib Fortuna one was.
I have two of the Revenge proofs, and at the time when I got them, they were readily available. You can get them for like $100 a piece, and I grabbed Zuckuss and Forlom, so those are two that I have.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like people who've been around it a long time. If you talk to a lot of other folks, that have that have been collecting for a while, it's like proof cards. They remember the day, like you say,
them
like,
away.
They were everywhere, right? Like so,
I remember those stacks of them.
There's stacks of them, like hundreds of them, like
crazy.
Like in fact, it makes it impossible for me to want to collect them in any kind of volume because I know how many they made, and I know people pay a lot for them now. But like, there are a lot of proof cards out there.
There's a lot. Yeah,
piles. Even the Skiff Guard. Like I've been in people's homes where they had 6 of the Skiff Guard one. It's like and that was one of the rarer ones. And so there are a ton of proof cards out there. Which is fine, it's a fun thing to collect. But, I think one of the reasons proof cards got popular was because there are a lot of them, so they're more accessible than some other things. And so
goes back to what I was saying before. It's accessible and cheap. People jump into that and grab them all up.
Totally.
Yep.
Yeah.
These are awesome.
Good stuff.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff.
What a great aesthetic for a circa 1970s, 1980s, like the color scheme and the overall displayability.
It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, there's some great stuff in the shot. Like there's, of course, the full set of like unproduced Droids and Ewoks. Some of them are laying flat because they're like taller figures. Then lower shelf. Yeah, so there's some fun stuff in the lower shelf. Like you have like. There's the sculpts for the diecast land speeder. There's the R2 is there was actually one in auction like this yesterday. Basically, it's sort of a prototype lunchbox. It was going to be a vinyl lunchbox for.
Oh wow!
It was also by Thermos, and the piece in the lower left, Death Star battle game. So it's basically this thing that looks like macro binoculars, but it's actually supposed to be the targeting computer on the X-wing. And so what you see, the toy that's sort of in the middle there, that's a hand-painted hard copy from that. It's actually working electronics and so on. And then the box is this mock-up hand-drawn box for it. And this was funny. So this came up on eBay years ago. It was a while now. But the seller had it on. I didn't even know it was on eBay for like days after it had been listed. I had to buy it now price on it. It was like $1,000, I think, is for the whole thing, box and an unproduced toy. And a bunch of collectors had seen it and they'd never seen it before, so they didn't know what it was. So anyway, I contacted the seller and I just asked him a bunch of questions. And from the questions, I figured out, okay, he's legit, worked at Parker Brothers, designed the toy. This is one of a kind. buy it now. And I bought it. And then, of course, it was one of those things, like, once you buy it, everybody's like, oh, man, you were so lucky. I'm like, it was on eBay for 3 days before I even found it. Like, you could have done the same thing. But, like, it's one of those things, like, how many people really will ask all these questions and try to research it as fast as you can?
Well, that goes back to being, doing your due diligence and being strategic about it, and having, now you have a one-off that, like you said, most people are now like, oh, man, it's like, well, it's been sitting. So, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It really is in hindsight.
In that case, it was a lot of it was just like asking them questions. So that this you can see a few things in this, like the sign at the top is a Toy Fair sign for Return of the Jedi. There's a whole bunch of there's things like the gyroscopic lightsaber. Probably my favorite piece in this case, in the lower left, you see the sort of what we call Star Tots, but they're basically these preschool toys that Kenner considered actually multiple times in the late 70s and early 80s, and they never released. They just way before
they came out with something like that recently, though.
Yeah, that's right.
They almost
revisited it. Yeah.
I think we have I thought we had a shot of that. I'm sorry, real quick.
Yeah.
Let me go out of this because let me find that, because that was actually really cool. I love those little. I think you have a close up of that.
Yeah.
Let me.
And those painted figurines, like for that, like are one of a kind. So there's actually Kenner photography of them. That's a good shot of it. So there's
interesting.
Kenner photography of them, and the Kenner photography, of course, matches these because the only ones they made. The Landspeeder and X-Wing were just sort of handmade mock-ups for that. The figures, they did make molds of them and made moldables, but these are the only painted figures. And the Kenner employee who had them, actually a lot of people knew he had them. It's just that, he was reluctant to sell. And then at one point, I'd say about 15 years ago, I just made him a huge offer on the stuff. And I realized it was a big offer at the time. By today's standards, it's a bargain. But it's like, I was just like, okay, you'd expect it to sell for X. He wants about 2X for it. I'll pay 2X, and then just, it's one of a kind. I really, really got to have it. And so, that's sort of how I ended up with it. But I love these pieces.
So cool. It's so cool.
You can tell they're 70s
so unique
toys too.
Yeah, for
just
sure.
Looking at them. Yeah.
Totally.
That's so cool.
We're going to jump on to, let's want to jump into something a little.
Yeah, let me real quick. I don't want to miss anything cool in this. I just want to.
Witch. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think if they're. I'm trying to see if I can find what you're talking about. I know there's another
white shuttle looking thing. I know.
Hold on.
Looks
let
like
me
a little.
see.
I'm dying to know how you found that. It's just. It wasn't even known to exist, right, Gus?
So which thing you're referring to?
The White Witch.
Oh, White Witch. Yeah. There wasn't a super elaborate story on that. I think it was more that it was a dealer who actually got it from another dealer who knew I wanted that, and that would be a unique thing. I mean, I guess the interesting part of that story is multiple people were for years. I guess the interesting part of that story is for years we knew the White Witch was created in prototype form. There's photography of it. And we speculated based on some Kenner records, they may have made a few of them, but none of them have ever turned up. Like, it was many, many years. It was over 2 decades that we knew of the White Witch's existence, but there was nobody knew of any that existed out there. And so out of the blue to get contacted and say, hey, there's a White Witch that was discovered. It was like, oh man, that's amazing. Love to have it. And what played to my advantage in getting it was that, so a lot of people knew about it. Of course, people selling it wanted a lot of money for it. Yeah. And I probably wouldn't have spent a lot of cash on it, not at least what they could ask for it. And it was because they wanted trade that's what enabled me to get it, is that I was willing to trade stuff. And I traded some, it was good stuff, and it added up to quite a bit of money and stuff. But what was interesting, and I sort of my wife jokes about it a bit, because what I did was, like, when it came up, I'm like, I don't know if I have enough that I could trade for it. It would take a lot of stuff to trade. So I actually looked at, like, boxes under the bed of just stuff I have that I just don't look at very often. And about 80% of what I let go of was stuff that was, like, under the bed.
Stuff you don't care about, you're getting an amazing piece from.
Yeah. So my wife jokes about it. It's like, you just let go of stuff that you weren't even, like, collecting.
Yeah.
Like you
You're
were
probably-
but it was of course immensely rare, the stuff I traded. So it
Chris,
worked out.
I can't find that image. I'm sorry.
No. Okay, I put one up on in our chat, so you could
I
just
don't know how to add it to the chat. I have the image of it. I can put it on my I'll put it on my Dropbox.
Yeah.
Do that while we're talking.
It's just such a rare
Yeah,
piece,
sure.
man.
No.
It's-
I'm sorry. I just can't.
No, that's fine.
I can't seem to find it. I did find. I'll show you one real quick that I thought was actually really cool. Hold on one second. Let me find it here. This is really cool. And this is for a minute I thought this was it, but it's not.
If you go to the Dropbox folder I sent earlier, you can pull it up from there. Oh yeah, that's the it's like the one sort of modern prototype in this room. It's a styrene model of a Naboo flagship from Episode 1.
That's so cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, I mean, styrene models are really rare. Like they made them back in the day, vintage days for Kenner, but this was when this came up, I was like, totally got to have it because it's probably one of the best ships of the prequel movies that they ever made, and it's all like just handmade styrene model. So yeah, just love the piece, and so I just had to get it. Even I don't really focus so much on prequel Eurus prototypes.
That's so cool. Let me bring this over here, and this is what you're talking about, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and there's a photography shot that Chris put up too, Matt, like the Kenner photography shot as well.
Yeah, which is this one, right?
Piece. Yep. Yeah. So it's interesting because you're almost doing like a screen match when you get the one-off or the prototype. You're looking at the photography, looking at the piece. That's going to be a lot of fun to really get into the innate details.
Who are these guys? What are these guys' names?
Yeah, George Doucette and Thal Jobin. What's interesting is that those are the two pieces. Those figures are the ones in that shot. So there's this kind of whole thing about. So some people are into this. I'm not, but like there are regular action figures that were in a lot of the photography that Kim Simmons shot for Kenner. That like it was just a normal action figure they just put in the shot. They might have like airbrush some stuff on the action figure, but it's just an action figure. And some collectors are into that, more power to them. I'm not into that. But like when the White Witch came up, it turned out people let me know of, sort of two different friends who had, we didn't know it at the time, but they happened to have the actual figures that were in that shot with the White Witch. One, the Thal Jobin was a hard copy, and the George Doucette on the right, it was a first shot. So I liked it because they weren't just regular action figures; they were actually both prototypes. So I ended up doing trades with two friends to try to get those so that I could match the figures to that shot that Kenner had. So
that's fantastic. So it's not just a placeholder of the figure; it's the actual ones that sat in. Yeah, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I remember that kind of blew up the vintage community a little bit ago, and it was just like, wow. Just unbelievable piece.
That's so cool.
Discovery. Yeah.
Let me let's go, guys. Let's do trying to think. There's just so much here, which is fantastic to look at. Let's go into some film memorabilia here. This stuff's really cool. Let's see real quick. Hold on. And all right.
Yeah, that thing. Most people would never guess what that is, but it's a. It looks. I mean, if you look at it, it looks very Stormtrooper-esque, and the thing in the middle, it looks like a dog bowl, like a bowl for a dog or something. The bottom piece looks like a butt plate to a Stormtrooper. But anyway, it's a wall decoration of fiberglass that was in Cloud City. So they had those in the dining room when Han and Leia walk in and Vader's sitting down. There's two of those, one on each side.
Oh yeah.
So
unreal.
From Bespin.
That's so cool.
That's interesting.
That's
Very
a
different.
great, such a random. That's really cool to have as a decoration.
It is.
That's
It's something most people wouldn't. I mean, even if you didn't have the real one, most people wouldn't have a replica of that hanging in their house, though. But
it's so obscure.
yeah,
This is, of course, a TIE Fighter blueprint. It's for the special effects model. It's at 1:1 scale. And I think when I posted. I don't know if I remember. I think I might have posted photos. I hope I gave you that one. I have a TIE Fighter model. If I don't, I can send you the photo. But anyway, now that is sort of like based on these blueprints, like the same scale as the
Yeah,
blueprints.
those are early sketch of the TIE fighter with the panels. The cool shape panels are not. They have the ribs inside of them, so rather than just completely hexagonal.
Yeah, you're
That's
right.
really
Chris.
cool.
Yeah, it's like a what is his name? Colin Cantwell, right? Sort of like that,
No,
right?
it's not. It would be post Cantwell. I don't know who drew this one, but I don't think. Yeah, I don't think Cantwell did this because his stuff is
He
really.
has the real thin bars coming
This
out.
is like rudimentary.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah, this is a matte painting
Beautiful.
from the first Ewok TV
Good lord.
movie. Yeah, it's funny when I got this paint. So this matte paintings for Star Wars just do not come up. Like I only
Right.
really know of 3 in private hands, and I have all 3 of them. So I have this one. I have a huge canvas painting that was used for the Hoth scenes with special effects. And then I have a Ralph McQuarrie one of the Death Star trench when they fly over the Death Star.
Oh,
But
man.
this one is funny. When I got it, this is the first one I got. It's on the glass, which is my favorite kind of matte painting when they paint on glass. And so I was like, okay, cool. I bought this in an auction. It was pretty cheap. And then I was like, okay, well, let me go through the Ewok movies and find the scene where, that this appears in. So I go to grab my Ewok DVDs, and of course they're still shrink wrapped because I never bothered to watch it. And then I put it in the player and I play it on fast forward, and I'm like, oh my god, this is horrible. Even in fast forward, it's taken forever. Like I just please get to the scene.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then I finally find the scene. I'm like, all right, yeah, there are matches, and then I put the DVD away.
That's so cool.
So awesome.
But
Yeah,
it's
the matte paintings are just so beautiful. Like it's
Especially
it's
that
just
one
so
with
cool.
with the sunlight coming.
Yeah, the
through.
sun rays coming through.
Oh.
and the 2 sons of Endor. See, I didn't even realize Endor has 2 sons until I saw this painting, and then I went back and saw Return of the Jedi, and there's a couple scenes where you see 2 sons at Endor. So I didn't realize it till years later. There was actually this matte painting that made me aware of that Endor is actually a binary system.
That's so cool. That's so freaking cool.
So realistic.
It is.
amazes
It's
me.
crazy.
It is.
Yeah, and these are some awards. Like this is a Grammy Award for Star Wars in the middle. On the right is an Oscar nomination. So these are nomination plaques. So all of them are nomination plaques. So the one on the right's an Oscar one. The one in the middle is the Grammy, and the one on the left is BAFTA Award, which is like the British Oscars.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
And that's a painting for the A-Wing. And this I sold last year. I think it was last year I sold it off to another collector. It's a massive painting, which I had for like 10 years. It was a Kenner. It's the artwork that's on the Kenner box for the
Cool.
A-Wing, original
That's so
art.
cool.
There's actually very little of the Kenner stuff that was painted, and so much of it was photography, really, and so it's really like late in the line where you start to see much more, where they start to use paintings instead of
Like the
photographs.
skiff.
Like the skiff.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And then this is
Well, crazy.
like a makeup
Look
chart.
at the max factor chart.
Dude, that's
Wow.
crazy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they
That's
use.
That's
these-
cool.
good. Such
Well,
good
that's
artists
what they
on
use
the
continuity.
such good artists on everything, and they use that stick figure of her face.
Well, no. So these
I know.
quiz are interesting. Yeah. So for continuity, they would refer back to this each time. That's such a unique piece.
Yeah. Every scene, every day when they shoot Leia's Hoth, they have to get the makeup right, and then
Right.
other parts of the movie, the makeup might be different. And I think for Leia, they've had there are a few. I think there's a Bespin one out there. There's a few of these out there, not many. There's a Lando one I've seen. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, I got to have an example of that. It's kind of cool to have one. And Leia's a great one because they do a lot of makeup on Leia.
Never knew
Yeah.
these existed.
It's all the continuity, right? Trying to stay.
Yeah. The colors and what
Yeah.
shades and hues.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's really cool.
Never even knew these existed.
And that's of course the Death Star model from the first.
There it is.
Of course, that's the Death Star model. Yeah, of course.
Of course.
Yeah, this thing's amazing.
This is an awesome piece. Yeah, this is one of the very first props I owned. It's sort of been downhill since getting.
Your
You mean
peak?
uphill? You mean uphill?
So how big is this thing, Gus?
It's
Like how?
about
What's a?
a meter in diameter, so it's pretty big for a model.
Wow.
It's actually a very big model. But yeah, it was just sort of on a whim. I knew the collectors who had this for many years, and I kept in touch with them. I promoted their stuff on my website. I showed images of the Death Star, but I had told them, and other collectors do this, say, like, look, if you ever decide to sell, I'm not going to pressure you to do it. Like, you should keep it. Your pride and joy, keep it. But if you decide to sell, let me know. And so it was these, 3 collectors who shared it, and they decided at one point they wanted to sell it. And so that's when I bought it. And then now that was 22 years ago. So it's been a while.
One of our
What's
viewers
this?
is asking.
What's this made out of?
A bunch of things. So it's a fiberglass, metal. So the frame inside is metal and wood. The outer shell is like a plexiglass. I said fiberglass. I don't think technically it's fiberglass. So it's like plexiglass, and then it's painted on. And just I don't know the exact techniques they use on the surface, but it's like painted on a plexiglass. What they did is they took some standard half dome plexiglass pieces and put them together to make this. And what you notice sort of looking at it is that the Death Star is actually wider than it is tall. It's actually not a sphere. It's just a little wider than it's tall.
It almost looks like a kind of like how R2's dome is, just a little asymmetrical of shape. Huh. Yeah.
That is crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Such a cool display.
Everybody kind of took like a moment of silence for a second.
Yeah. And actually, when we bought our house, we actually I already had the Death Star for that, so it was like, okay, we need a spot for the Death Star. That was actually a constraint. And so a real estate agent drove him nuts because it was like we'd look at it, go into a house and have a tape measure out. Could the Death Star fit here? And it was just sort of like, and so there was a perfect spot in this house because it was like the foyer, which is like the perfect dimensions it was like a prominent place, totally the right size. It was absolutely perfect for the Death Star.
Gosh, that's so cool.
And that's right when you walk in your front door foyer, right?
Yes.
Nice.
Totally. Yeah.
Great wife.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's another shot of the Death Star. You can see in the back that it's not painted 360 degrees around. It's the back side is you see the clear plexiglass, and in there's also a hole so you can access the inside of it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
A light source inside it because it has thousands of little pinholes. So when you put a light source inside, that's what gets the effect of the surface lit up.
Unreal.
Wow. Yeah.
That is crazy, man. Yeah. What a cool thing to own. There's just some people looking at your stuff.
Yeah, this is from like we've had parties over and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Dang,
guys,
that's perfect. It's
as
so
we've
cool.
got into like things like found parts, props, you tend to watch the movies a little bit differently, pay attention to it in a different way. How has this, as we go through the images, how has building a collection like this affected the way you view and see the movies? I mean, it has to have had some impact on the relationship to the movies, correct?
Yes. Yeah, that's a great question, actually. It in a weird way, it's distracting because you end up spending time thinking about, I own that, or I have one of those, it actually helped me realize, like, at one point, like, I actually have a lot of props from the movies. I was watching one of the films, I think it was A New Hope, and it was like, wow, I actually have, like, I was sort of going through the movie, pointing out the things I have in the movie, examples of not necessarily the one we're seeing on screen. I was like, wow, I actually have a lot of these things. Like it was like, so it can be distracting to watch the movie, but it's fun also because especially as they go to Blu-ray and 4K and stuff, as you get higher resolution, it just changes prop collecting because your ability to actually match to particular pieces is another sort of new thing that has emerged years later as they get higher resolution.
Gus, has Lucasfilm ever tried to buy anything back from you?
No, I'm the Death Star. The guys I bought it from had actually offered it to Lucasfilm. A year or two before they offered it to me, and I think I must have either didn't remember it at the time or whatever that they had actually tried to sell it at one point, and then they went back to we want to keep it. But yeah, they had a chance to buy it, and they ended up passing on it.
The archives were just not big enough.
Yeah,
we got too much stuff. Sorry.
Yeah, they weren't in a place. I mean, I don't know. what I think part of it was they made these things, they lost track of them. In the case
Sure.
of the Death Star, they threw it out. So they weren't motivated
crazy.
to pay money for something that they had lost contact with.
Discarded.
They might-
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Today it might be different, but like at the time they just sort of
Right.
passed on it. But yeah, so I think that was part of their motivation.
That's nuts.
And that's like a Tuscan bandolier.
That's so cool.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
That
Yeah,
is
that
just
was a
cool.
great question because I was wondering as we were going along if the archives ever thought, well, hey, these pieces are pretty significant and important. They may have a better place here. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, they have a lot of great stuff. That when Lucas opens his museum, I'm sure it'll be mind blowing. And but there's a few private collectors have a lot of cool stuff that they don't have too. So, yeah.
That's so cool. Let's hop over real quick. Let's go over to let me see here. Let's look at there's some crazy stuff here. Hold on one second.
I love the smile on your face as you're prepping.
What are all those medals
There's just
behind
so
you,
many
Gus?
things.
Oh yeah, those are just like a lot of them are Star Wars, but but many of them are Disney. They were running from 10K races, half marathon stuff.
Okay.
So Disney does these events, and they do Star Wars races. They just stopped doing them because of the pandemic. But yeah, they're from just like running
Marathons.
races, marathons, and half
Sweet.
marathons, stuff like that. And then also behind
yeah.
my Star Wars library, and that's those are all like screen use props. Those are just different
Crazy.
blasters from the movies, and I had the case custom made.
I like that case. It's cool.
Yeah,
I like that display.
it's just it's kind of cool. I mean, I've seen other collectors use slat wall.
Yeah.
Slat walls, really configurable, and I know people who, like arms dealers, gun dealers and stuff like will display things with slat wall as well. But the look I didn't want to use normal slat wall. Like I tried, worked with a company that makes cases. Like I love the metallic background and it was just it just gave it a really good Star Wars look, and it's like an armory, kind of look
Yeah.
to it.
It's like something
yeah,
John
that-
Wick would walk up
look,
to and be.
Yeah, it's funny because every once in a while we'll get like a contractor or somebody coming in the house, like electrician or something. They think we're like gangsters or something because it looks like, it looks like real guns.
Oh, it's fantastic.
So what are the
Heavy
two
duty
bigger
artillery.
rifles? What were those two bigger rifles?
two
What
bigger-
was a
yeah.
Hoth and Endor?
Yes, Hoth and
Okay.
Endors. They're both Rebel
Okay.
rifles. The one on the
Yeah.
top is let me just check. Yes, the one on the it's hard to see up close. Wait 1 second here. Yes, the one on the top is the Hoth one, and the one in the middle is Endor. And so the Hoth one is a stunt one. It's a resin. It has some metal pieces, but it's mostly resin. And the Endor one is basically, from what I understand, a modified M16 that they used and has metal parts. And then they and very similar. They use the same sort of foundation for both the Hoth and
And a Biker Scout blaster too.
and Biker Scout blaster.
Yeah.
There's a Biker Scout blaster, there's a Cloud City blaster, a Rebel, a New Hope blaster, there's an Imperial Officer's blaster
Unreal.
for the Jedi. And this shot is from, I've since gotten other guns, and then I think if you wide angle, you notice there's 3 rifles. I used to have 2 Hoth. I used to have 2 Endor blasters. And I sold one because one was a stunt one was a hero one. So I kept the hero one. And then I have a Princess Leia Return of the Jedi blaster now.
Wow.
I think I have another blaster I'm blanking.
Jeez.
Yeah, I have a Hoth Rebel blaster. Although I took it out of the case because I have also a Hoth. Now I have a Hoth Rebel costume. So I actually took the Hoth rifle and blaster off the case so I could put it with the mannequin with the costume.
Reasonable. It's reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
fantastic.
As one would, yeah.
Yeah. Boba
So
Fett.
this is a stunt.
Stunt one, yes. Return of the
Stunt.
Jedi. It's the
Ugh.
one that Dickie Beer, who was the stuntman who rolled into the Sarlacc pit. This is the one that was designed not to, so you could roll and roll down the Sarlacc pit with Boba Fett's backpack.
Crazy.
Yeah,
Good Lord.
it's a great piece.
Oh,
I love Boba Fett stuff, and of course, it's just so iconic for somebody who knows.
Oh
Boba
yeah,
my
absolutely.
goodness.
It's crazy. That's so nice.
Yeah, that's
that's a beauty.
Yeah, one of the Jabba henchman masks from Return of the Jedi.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Is it, Gus? Is it hard to keep these things in good condition? I mean, I would imagine.
Yeah. The foam latex stuff is tough. There's different kinds of latex they used, and so the stuff that really disintegrates is foam latex. So there's, for example, a lot of the Ugnaughts, they're in really bad shape. A lot of the Yoda stuff's in really bad shape. They used a massive amount of foam latex, and I have some foam latex stuff. The way, and there's some collectors that are hesitant to buy masks that that are a foam latex. There's and what I do is to, like, if something's been around for years and it's had little disintegration over that time, it's probably going to preserve quite well. And so this is an example of a mask that's held up. So at the time I got it, it's like, okay, this is holding up well. There's there are also there's Tom Spina, who I think you've had on for, Tom is a master of how to preserve things. So he has also, I've had a few things that that he's been able to, his team has been able to preserve it. So like if it's already starting to deteriorate, they can repair it. And repair is always a kind of sort of controversial. I usually don't have them try to alter the state of it very much, but if something is like distracting, I might have them patch it up. But then they're able to preserve foam latex so they can really slow down that process.
Yeah, sure.
But but if awesome. Where it's more risky on the latex stuff is if you buy something from a recent film, you're taking a huge gamble on whether those latex masks are going to last, or now they use silicone masks too. Those things really disintegrate very fast. So there's a gamble there. On stuff that's like 20, 30, 40 years old, if it's lasted that long, as long as you keep it out of the sunlight and don't have like crazy climate conditions, it's probably going to preserve quite well. And that's been true about all the stuff I've picked up. I have a Ewok mask and other things that have held up quite well since I've had them.
Yeah, that's cool.
Oh yeah, that's
a beauty.
Mask, Tusken A New Hope mask, and this has a funny story. So basically, I get, as I mentioned, I get a lot of incoming where people just offer me stuff, and a guy who basically was a truck driver who shipped things between the studios to their different storage places, had contacted me out of the blue, and he was based in Indiana, and he had left a message for me on an email account that I hadn't used in like forever. And I would happen to be going through that email account, like, oh my God, this guy wrote me a year ago. So he said, I got a Tusken Raider mask, and so I was like, okay. So I emailed him back, thinking, okay, 99% chance it's a Don Post mask or something that he's mistaken, because that happens to me all the time. But so, send some photos and whatever. And so he sends these photos of this and Luke's A New Hope belt, and there's a utility belt, a Tatooine, and I go to pull up the DVD and I just start watching. I'm like, oh my God, this screen matches like the Tusken mask and the Luke belt totally screen match.
Oh my gosh,
it's got the real deal. And so I was like, I totally got to buy these things. So I
how did he get his hands on that? Like, what did?
Yeah, I mean, he basically knew his story is basically he knew Lucas and he had worked with him on this stuff. And after the films were wrapped up, he asked George if he could have the mask, and what he said was like George went to grab it and said, "Here, have Luke's belt as well," and gave him both of those things.
Oh my gosh!
Well, the funny part is we get wowed by that today, but back then they didn't know.
Yeah, they're just
So you want a mask here? Take it. The mindset was different.
Yeah,
this is like a rather small piece, Gus. Is this go over, or is this kind of open from the back side? And
it's huge too. Like,
oh, it is.
Yeah, it's a really big mask. Like, it's heavy. The pieces in the front are aluminum. Like that. There's some. You can see they're pretty thick, so they have some heft to it. So it's actually front weighted because it has only. I mean, you can sort of tell. I mean, they had experienced, film people make these things, but I don't know how experienced they were in making like sci-fi masks where like you wouldn't put all this aluminum in the front. So it's actually a big, heavy mask. And the prequel ones that they did years later, those are lighter weight and the size of a human head. These are like really big. It's pretty big. So you can tell from that, if you saw the mask, you realize and knew the movie that the people who played Tuskens had to be pretty tall just to get the right proportions and scale.
So it wouldn't look odd. Yeah, so it wouldn't give that large head look. Yeah.
Wow.
I think that's crazy.
And that's Snowspeeder cannon from the Life-Size Snowspeeders.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
No big deal.
I think at this point we're all just going to be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, no big deal.
Just,
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting, Gus, was hanging it there by design because it almost looked like a curtain rod where you can like.
Yeah, no, it's sort of what I bought it from.
Like a pun.
Or who had it in their London office, and so it was one of those things like I told them if you ever sell it, let me know, and then but they had it hanging with these hooks. Some of the hooks that are there are the ones I had them just ship me the hooks they used to hang it, and then I bought some additional ones, and then. Yeah, and basically it's just sort of been sitting in our dining room since.
Is it heavy?
No, it's more bulky than heavy. It's
Okay.
it's not like the main section's like a PVC pipe kind of thing, a tube.
Yeah, yeah.
And the back of it's actually a slide tray, like a carousel slide tray, which most people today probably don't know what slide trays are. But yeah, it's like it's like they kit bashed it. But yeah, it's I just saw it and I thought, it's such a, especially people who know the Kenner toy, you really know the Snowspeeder guns from the Kenner toy. So I just love the piece.
That's so cool. That's really cool.
And those are like Emperor's contact lenses, for the yellow eyes.
That's crazy.
That's how they did
Now these are some of these type of unique pieces here really get me because they really are just fantastic little bits that bring so much to the film and to the characters. And it's something that, as like you were mentioning earlier, as a collector, no one's going to set out and say, oh, well, the Emperor's contact lenses or, the makeup sheet or, but now that it's on display, it's the Emperor's eyes. I mean, it's just, wow.
How does that stay intact all these years? Like,
well, it is, this one's not too tough. Like the person who saved it had it in a contact lens case with the 2 contact lenses. And these are old school lenses. Like these are, I think they're glass. Like back in that time, there were these hard, thick, contact lenses.
Really?
Yeah.
They're
No,
they're probably hand painted too, right, guys?
They're probably hand painted. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're like
And
lead
Glass
lines.
on
Lead
your
line.
eyes.
Lead line.
Yeah.
Lead line.
Stick with little needles in your eyes.
So they, but this is also a good example of like, because I think some collectors don't think a lot about the display part of it. And so when I got this from another collector, basically it was 2 contact lenses in a contact lens case. And so the first thing I did was to figure out, how do I display this? And so what I did is try to get a high resolution image of the Emperor. And then I went into Photoshop and painted the eyes yellow. So taking a black and white print of the Emperor, putting yellow eyes on it, printing that, and then getting a frame shop to, actually I didn't print it, the frame shop did, but I sent them the image I had altered of the black and white of, and then they basically did this display. It just made it just pop out. Like if you saw
that's cool.
on a shelf, you'd be like, what? That's not exciting. But when you display it like this, it's pretty cool.
Gus, let me ask you, if those are painted, you say are they completely painted? Could he not see while he's acting?
There are holes in the pupil. You can see
pupils. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Crazy, man. There you are.
You're standing in front of the
In front of your
Is that
things.
Tusken Sniper above you?
Yeah, that's Tusken Sniper. And that one is interesting. That's from the Death Valley shots with the Banthas. And sometimes with blasters and all sorts of firearms in all films. So that's actually a vintage firearm. So because of that, it has a serial number, and you have the production paperwork of when they rented it to go to Death Valley to shoot the Bantha scenes. So you can sort of prove it's actually the rifle that they, or one of the rifles that they rented for doing those shots.
That's crazy. That's so cool. Here's another shot of that, of the cannon. So cool.
It needs the open plexiglass with the lights going through it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The Kenner version.
Yep.
Another shot of this guy. This is
Man,
crazy.
it's just-
Does it ever get old talking about it, or is it just
Oh
always?
no, never gets old.
You gotta love it, right?
Yeah,
That's so cool. Oh, there's another shot. Yeah, there you go.
yeah. At the
Yeah,
mount
they
of
are.
the case. Yeah.
Dude, that's some really pretty detail work right down there. That's cool.
Yeah,
It's got
And
kind
that's
of
something you
paint
don't
all
really
along.
see or pick up on when you're watching the movie. You don't see those
Yeah.
unique
yeah,
details.
and that's a like an old musket that they rent out for different films, like westerns and stuff too. And,
Oh,
and
interesting.
things it's sort of Middle Eastern design, like it's so it might have been used for things like Lawrence of Arabia or something like that. So there are companies that rent out firearms and
Right.
for movies, sometimes live fire, but sometimes just like deactivated weapons and stuff. And then some things they just make for the film, they just cast in resin. But yeah, that's and sometimes between films they alter the things. So like the Rebel blaster in the lower right, you see it's sort of missing the scope on the top, but that was one that got altered after A New Hope a little bit. It got some paint added to it for some other films. So they actually reuse these things for other films.
The Tuscan sniper goes well with the Jawa. I've seen the Jawa and how it's supposed to look, like the stock. It's just both of them. You could tell they're like kind of from the same planet. They have the painting on the bottom there, and the Jawa has a lot of design on the bottom of his.
Yeah. And I think they use a lot of the Tunisian, so sort of in like North Africa. There's a bunch of the firearms in that region have they used a lot from that region, from the architecture to the costumes. It heavily influenced Star Wars, but the firearms are definitely based on that kind of like Northern Africa.
Very cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's go to this one right here.
Oh yeah, this is an Ewok mask. That one.
These terrifying little animals, aren't they? Like
that was from a guy who played that Ewok. So he was in Jedi, played an Ewok.
Well, did this come as is, or was this something that possibly like?
Yeah.
say that again, Jason.
Oh, I was asking if this came as is, or if it was one of those things where parts from Stewart, because they made so many Ewoks.
Right.
If it was something that was sort of culminated after the fact.
It came as is.
Okay.
So yeah.
He just looks so vicious.
Yeah, I have
So
3
vicious.
Ewok masks, and all 3 of mine were as is. I know other people have taken the parts or Stuart Freeborn parts to reassemble them, but I don't have any like that. But yeah, this is came directly from the actor.
That's crazy, man.
Wow.
Yeah, and then
No, he looks cute. I'd pet him.
Yeah,
The other one
yeah,
looks like he'd bite
sure.
you.
yeah, and this is a really cool one. Came from one of the actors from the film, and it's pretty much as is. It needed a little bit of restoration in the middle because it had some damage, but yeah, it's kind of
That's so cool.
Summer Road.
Oh, there's another shot of that.
Yeah.
I love that sniper.
Yeah, that's Cloud City.
Oh, going through some of the tights of these guys.
There's like Naboo, and then that's the Hero Return of the Jedi Endor blaster.
Oh, that's cool.
Beautiful. Yeah, beautiful.
Another shot of Cloud City.
Are most of these resin or like?
Yeah, most are resin.
Okay.
Some are metal. I'd say about 3/4 of them are resin.
Okay.
It's like A New Hope Rebel blaster. And those
That's
are
fantastic.
molds to the Rebel blaster from A New Hope.
Jeez.
And yeah, in fact, in some way, like, when you have the molds or have an original, there's so many details, like in like how they did it, that like you can tell what's original, what's not. Like,
Yeah.
so whenever I see, there aren't that many, but the blasters from A New Hope, there's certain things around the trigger and all that area that like are so unique of the shape. It's not like a perfect smooth circle, and you can sort of pick up on that when you see the originals. And then when you see somebody try to pass off something that's not original, you'd also notice that because you get sort of trained. But yeah,
That's
this is the
crazy.
original.
Yeah.
Stargo says, Gus, not easy question, but what is your favorite piece in your collection?
Yeah,
Oh,
people
great
ask me
question,
that all
great
the
question.
time. It's almost impossible to answer. Like, I'm going to be honest. It's really hard to answer. It's like, yeah, I wish I had an answer for you. It's just like there's so many pieces that are so unique, and I love,
Yeah.
like, just it's not. There's not like
Well,
one thing,
I'll tell you this: when I was going through some of these images, I was like, I don't know what to do here. There's just so many things to look at that
Yeah.
that are amazing, absolutely incredible. That I mean, I would imagine the Death Star's got to be up there, right? I mean,
Star's
that's
definitely up there. Yeah.
incredible.
I could tell you
And,
my
like, Luke's
favorite.
belt from A New Hope is up there, and the Tuscan mask, and there's a lot of stuff, and some things we didn't even look at
Gus.
today.
Yeah, sure.
Easily my favorite is the
Hans-
slave
Hans
Leia
Vest.
costume.
The Slave Leia costume, from Return of the Jedi. That's a pretty
Easily.
sweet piece. The
That's-
Hoth,
Yeah,
that
I
is
love
pretty
the paint. I love the Hoth painting.
yeah, Hoth painting is, it's just hard to pick. Like, it really is. That's a Vader helmet from Empire. The helmet, obviously, the face mask isn't original, but the person I got it from had made that face mask to display it, which I thought was a very clever way.
really cool.
Yeah, it's present, but it eliminates the focus on the faceplate and gives it the dome. Yeah,
Great
interesting.
display.
Great display.
Yeah.
I love that. Gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Now I'm
And
just scrolling through again. These are more questions. Sorry, Matt. Just questions out
No,
of
go, go.
curiosity. So, because when you get your hands on these type of things, I get that a prop, a gun is what it is. But do you ever just the kid in you pick it up and do the whole pew pew and like take some pictures and I mean, right?
A little bit when I first get it. Sometimes have fun with it or try it on or something. Like, I do that. You once it gets into a display case, not so much. But what I like to do is, if the piece is accessible, some of them aren't that accessible. But like, sometimes and we don't often have kids visit, but sometimes I have kids visit. It's fun to just like hand them like a stormtrooper blaster or something from the movies, and then they have like the bragging rights when they go back to school, and of course take a bunch of pictures of them holding an original from Star Wars. So that's fun to watch a kid hold it, and then they take pictures and know they're sharing with their friends, and it's like that's kind of awesome. But I rarely do. I mean, I'll usually take a fun shot or something once I get a piece, but not much after that.
Yeah.
This next one's it's crazy to me. Like, this is
Wow.
It is a rehearsal puppet for
Henson himself was basically handling this and working with this piece, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Man, I sent you pictures of them
Yeah.
handling the piece.
Yeah, I have those. Let me hold on one second. Let me keep talking, guys, and let me find that.
In fact, when it came up for auction, I remember some just chatter among prop collectors where they didn't know that. A lot of people were like, "What is that thing?" Because it sort of it looks like as what it is. It's a Muppet version of Yoda. But there's actually a lot of behind the scenes photography with this piece, and you see Henson and Frank Oz and Mark Hamill and a bunch of others, Irvin Kershner, others interacting with it. But they use this to rehearse the scenes with Hamill and Oz, and you can match it to those things. And so there was actually a lot of bidding activity when it came up for auction, but it didn't go very high. I could have gone a lot higher. And I think partly was people didn't research it enough, but there's a lot of good reference on. You can see in the foreground, there's a good, Henson with the piece.
Yep.
And
It's crazy.
It's like the Muppet version of Yoda. And then Frank Oz.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Look at him testing him out.
I think that's
It's almost cooler than the screen use piece.
It's crazy.
Well, and the screen use pieces are all
Disintegrated. Yeah.
disintegrated. Yeah, they're in really bad state.
Yeah.
There's replicas now of them, but the originals are in a really rough state. So the rehearsal puppets, in a better state than the final Yodas.
What is the rehearsal puppet made of? Is it same material as a Muppet?
Yeah, it's like
cloth?
Muppet. I don't. Yeah, it's like a cloth kind of thing.
Yeah.
But some of the limbs are like harder pieces. They're obviously the robe and stuff is cloth, and it has some metal joints and things. So
Are any of the manipulation sticks still on the hands or anything?
it's a good question. There might be some
Sockets?
points where they attach or something like that.
Okay.
I don't know if they ever intended it to work that way, like Muppets do with the things that help the arms move up. Like it might. I'm not sure. I'd have to go look at it.
I don't know if they call those the manipulation sticks, but
Well, that's just what
it's a fantastic word.
Yeah, no,
Fantastic name you just made up.
Yeah.
It's freaking
It's
hilarious.
probably a proper term for it.
I
But
love
anyway,
it. Yeah. Okay. So let me bring up another album. This is just when I saw this, I was just this is just.
and there's a lot of other stuff I haven't even updated online.
Oh, I'm sure.
Other things. In fact, some of the things I sent you guys the image of, like those, are some of the things that are probably not even in the photos I have online yet that I've posted on social media.
Yeah, I sent a few over to Matt. We can pull those up. I think one of the Matt paintings was in there.
Yeah, the Death Star trench was there.
Let's bring up this. This is really cool. I mean, I could literally do this. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's just keep going here. These are really cool. So we see people doing replicas of these.
Yeah.
All the time, right? They look beautiful. The replicas even look beautiful, but these are actual, the actual versions.
Yeah. I mean, I love the clapperboard stuff. There aren't
Harvest, love it.
a whole lot.
Revenge of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have in the photo, let me see.
Giant Silent Bob at the bottom.
Photo of the I don't know if I sent you the photo of I have a few more.
I think we have some closer shots of some of these, but
yeah. Let me.
So they had a little fun with these on episode 1. It says Director Yoda. B2. Like they were being that's great to see that.
Yeah, and let me while we're talking, I have like a more updated one. Let's see if I can find it. But yeah, I mean these are cool. I mean there's no doubt. It's like you can from various movies and so some of them are like the Blue Harvest one's probably my favorite one. It's as like it's the name they filmed Return of the Jedi under as a fake name in the US. And then there's various Revenge of the Jedi ones. They make them in different scales, like so when they do a close up like a pilot in a cockpit, they'll use the small ones.
The small one, yeah, right.
And in a big wide angle scene, they'll use one of the big ones. It's just they're kind of fun. Let me see if I can find the image.
They're so cool. I think this kind of stuff is really, even if you collect statues or anything like that, I just think some of these things just add so much to a collection to make it look. I don't know. I just love it. I think
especially that they're old and weathered.
But even the replicas, I think even the replicas look beautiful, like in a collection. You know what I mean? Like it's really, I just love it. I think it looks awesome.
Yeah.
Now, let's say the Empire Strikes Back one up top there, did you actually put like a clear coating over it so the chalk wouldn't go away, or?
Nope. Just leave it. Yeah, just plain old chalk. Yeah. Let me see if I can find that. I just leave them as is. In fact, like the Blue Harvest one and the Episode 1 have like sort of like whiteboard markers, so like they damaged actually if you were to rub against it. But yeah, I mean that's but I have quite a few more now. But I have a Revenge of the. I have another Revenge of the Jedi one. I have a white Revenge of the Jedi one now. So yeah, it's I not found a New Hope one yet.
Okay.
They did have them, but nobody.
Do these come up in auction very often, or is this just like a?
They do. They do. And it's funny you mentioned that. Like the Blue Harvest one, I bought in auction. So I had a few of these when I bought the Blue Harvest one. And when it came up for auction, I was like, I am going to take that home. I like splurge. You'll never see Blue Harvest one again. And I paid a lot for it. I mean, a lot. And it was, at the time I bought it, it was the highest anyone had ever paid for a film clapper ever.
Oh, no kidding.
Any movie, which is not an honor you want for anything you buy. You
don't
want to be the guy who paid the most.
Yeah.
So what was funny, though, was a year later, same auction house had an Empire Strikes Back clapper come up, and I had one similar to it, so I didn't bid on it. That one ended up selling for like 35% more than I paid for the Blue Harvest one. So I was like, all right, good. I'm not now the one who spent the most on a clapper. And then a couple years after that, there was an auction in London where a Jaws clapper sold for 3 times what that one sold. So it was
wow.
they had and now clapperboards for Star Wars are kind of crazy. And this isn't even that long ago. I got to think. I think I picked this up like 12 years ago or something. So, yeah, I mean, the Star Wars clapperboards have gotten kind of crazy. But
What's
yeah,
the significance? Do you know the significance of the alligator on the bottom there?
I don't. I'm sure it'd be the kind of thing if I researched it, probably could find out. But I do not know why they put the alligator there. That's a good
It's
question.
just odd that all that's there, and then all of a sudden there's a sticker of an alligator at the bottom.
Maybe some inside joke.
Yeah, it's day exterior.
Yeah, I was
so
gonna say, hearing some of the stories I've heard directly from some of the guys working on, I mean, it really could just be the most randomest, like, hey, put a sticker on it, you know?
Yeah.
that's so cool. Let me go. Let me find where we were. Hold on. Okay, so let's go here. We'll come back through some of those.
Oh yeah, this is sort of an outfit from Mos Eisley. It's from a background character, and if you see the outfit and look for it in the scenes, she's in a lot of scenes wearing this outfit.
Wow.
And yeah, it's just kind of a one of a kind.
I've never even noticed it before.
That's
Well,
so
that's
cool.
the thing, Chris. So now our radar is up, right? So
Yeah.
next time you watch the film, it's ironically, it's gonna stand out.
For sure. You
Yeah,
see that character.
I thought maybe it was Carrie Fisher's bathrobe or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mos Eisley, that's so cool.
Yeah. Those are different hands,
Jeez.
of course.
When I immediately thought about Tom when I saw this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and Tom actually, there's a couple of those I actually got from Tom, but the he's also, I've gotten the stands, like he's also helped, like when I've gotten some of the prop hands, his crew will, can display it nice, like put it on a nice stand and preserve it so that like the fingers aren't the weight of it isn't gonna damage it. So they've worked on a few of these.
Is that a boss can on top left?
The top left is Plo Koon.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, you notice
I was
these
wondering.
weird fingernails that he's got these like thick, long fingernails. And so you can see that sort of in one of the fingers. The one on the upper
So cool.
right's in the New Hope Tuscan. And that one came, when I got the Tuscan mask, the sort of bandages and stuff had that glove sort of tangled in there. So it's actually the glove was sort of attached to the mask.
Oh, crazy.
Is that a Greedo?
That's a Greedo hand from Stuart Freeborn. Yeah.
Nice.
And you can see the it's the original trilogy Greedo or New Hope Greedo. You can scroll all the way. I think as far down you can go. There's a prequel Rodian there on the shelf below on the right.
Very different.
You know how the technology or they're just their I guess interest in making it more elaborate was stronger in the prequels. So the Rodian hands in the prequels are that thicker digits and whereas the original trilogy, it's basically a latex glove with suction cups at the end of stretched fingers and suction cups.
Who is the furry one?
That's Cabe, who's that character,
little bat.
a short character goes up to the bar to pick up a drink.
Sweet.
Sort of a rat-looking guy in the cantina.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And these are some different miniatures. So the one on the top's like pod race sort of background, like building stuff. The gray one, I actually don't know which film it's from. I got it from an ILM guy who said it's one of the I think it's from episode 2, one of the prequel cities. It might be Coruscant, but I don't know actually what it's from.
It looks like in Mos Espa, where the Qui-Gon was talking to Anakin when he's little, and they're talking about.
You're talking about. I was talking about the gray one and sort of but the upper one is Mos Eisley.
I'm saying the gray one looks like those. They show a line of huts that have.
I see
like that.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it might be Tatooine. Like I was thinking, it was most likely Coruscant, but it might be. Might be Camino potentially.
Okay.
Because Camino, I have another piece from Camino as a sort of similar color scheme. And that's from Kashyyyk. The one on the left is Kashyyyk, and then the one on the right, that's obviously a AT-AT footprint thing, and that was so that when they made the imprints on the
for the hence the handle to.
it was
Okay.
That's
Oh,
cool.
fantastic.
That's cool.
that came from Richard Enland, I think, was put it up for auction years ago, like 12 years ago.
That's an awesome. See, something like that is so arbitrary. That is an awesome piece because there had to be, somebody had to. Okay, who's going to put the faux footprints, in the baking soda, and you had to say
exactly.
it. Wow.
This
That's
is
awesome.
kind of what I was thinking it might be.
So cool.
Kind of
Oh yeah,
looks
yeah,
like
yeah.
those
That's
huts.
actually that's actually a real place.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, yeah. If I might be able to pull up an image. I've actually been to that. It's basically in Tunisia. There's those are old granaries. So that's the what they do. The ancient granaries from hundreds of years ago, and that's what they would store grain in the desert.
Nice.
And they use that just for Star Wars. And let me see if I can find it. Hold on a second.
That AT print is pretty cool. Is it heavy? Is that like a? I look at it and I think it's like a kettle.
Yeah, it absolutely has
kettle
some
weight.
Yeah.
Here's another shot of that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You can see the footprint part of it. So yeah, it's, I'm trying to find this thing. It's like just the stuff is so much fun because you learn about like some other aspect of how they made the stuff, like that no one until the thing turns up. So.
Well, that's the thing. You so much. You gather so much info when you get so into it. There's so many small details that you just don't think of, and now it's like, oh, common sense. Of course, they had to do that for for obvious reasons. But yeah, these are really interesting pieces that really put the movie aspect into perspective.
So cool.
That's such an awesome piece, huh?
It is. Yeah. It's so random and cool.
And I feel like it's a piece that most people would potentially pass on. Like, oh, why would I want something like that? And I mean, maybe not, but
this is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Jabba's tail. It's basically this is like you've probably seen the documentary. It's where they had
when he's doing
4 people inside Jabba, and Mike Edmonds, who's the one who operated the tail. He's like talks about going backwards and forwards, and so. But it's an amazing model. It was made by Alan, and it's actually the very tip of Jabba. It's like a really tiny section of the tail, but it's brilliantly done. You can sort of see the wires. There's like a lot of wires, and so because of that, it's just so articulated. Like you can get it to do like a very subtle, lifelike sort of wiggle motion. You can get it to just sway back and forth. You can get it to turn around. I mean, it has so much control.
Have you actually operated? Like, have you actually tried to? Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Yeah. Now it's in a case, so it's sort of sealed up, so I don't do as much anymore. But I have, when it was out in the open, like always, every time.
It probably make the noise too, like when Lane's choking on the tail, slapping,
And the original skin is, of course, because it's foam latex, that didn't survive. But you can, you sort of tell, looking at this, it's just, you can just absolutely tell
Which is
another
marvel in movie making technology, because the complexity of this, for the lack of resources that they had, based in technology back then, is it is amazing. Because in its own right, it's from an engineering perspective, it's got its own fascinations. Yeah.
At one point, you're thinking, you wish it still had the latex on, but another point, it's such
so
a cool design and how it shows how it moves and stuff. You want to keep it just like that.
Yeah, I agree, Chris. Yeah.
And by the way, I posted sending you guys the link of the building we were looking at before that Anakin and Qui-Gon are walking by. If you're able to pull up
it's in the private chat.
The private chat, yeah.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah, and these are images from StarWars.com, but I loaned them my images. So the photos in the sort of top and left and bottom are the places in Tunisia, and then the smaller photos you see embedded in are from the scenes from the movie. But anyway, if you get a chance to check that out.
Is this what we're talking about here?
Oh, sorry, is that the right one? That's not the right shot. I wonder why. Let me
Is it further down? Is this one?
Further down, yeah. Actually, yeah. I guess I said, yeah, that's it right there.
I got you. Yep.
The shot before, the upper left, that's the building. That's the actual building today, and then the shot in the movie there you see with Qui-Gon and Anakin is just basically a granary. It's actually a historic site in this town called Medellin in Tunisia. And then the one in the bottom is a different place. So the one in the upper left is called Sar Medellin, and then the one in the bottom is Sar Hadada. So they're just different granaries, ancient granaries that they used to film the movies.
That's so cool. Yeah. That's so cool. That is awesome.
That's another thing in my collecting. Like, it's actually the first props I got was from going to Tunisia in 1998. Just,
Did you get the crate Dragon Ball?
I got crate Dragon Balls there. Yeah, because my wife was like, hey, let's do a 3-week trip to Tunisia. And so found a bunch of props then, from Hope and from episode 1. They had just finished episode 1. They left so much stuff behind.
Oh my gosh.
So I brought back a bunch of things.
That's so cool.
I mean, it almost makes sense because it takes so much to bring it out there.
Yes.
It's such an expense to try to break it down and bring it back. And,
Yeah, and they sold a lot of the set dressing to a local guy who just used it for parts and stuff. And so that's how I was able to get a lot of the pieces.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this guy.
Yeah, he's a Gorak from the Ewok movies. He's like a.
Oh, okay.
But he's like one of those things like Gorak. He's
freaking terrifying.
99% of Star Wars fans don't even know what this is. Like I wouldn't until I had it really. I sort of remembered him, but then you get these like people totally into the Ewok movies, like that's the Gorak.
Isn't it the?
That's awesome.
Isn't it the big monster-looking thing in the McCory picture with the Ewoks, where he's like poking on his head on top of the Ewok village?
I think you're right. I think that's it. Yes. Yeah. So. It's I think it's Gorak. Yeah, that's it. I'll you send it as a link to it.
Dude, that's crazy looking.
It's
a little inside joke for Chris. Chris, you look at this guy. I'll bite you.
I'll stick you. I'll cut you.
Yeah. And that was a cat that they they basically they use that in a lot of the special effects stuff. They will they will mock it up that way, and then they'll decide to make a costume or something later on. And actually I was saying Gorak, it's Gorax, like borax.
Yeah,
I can send you the link for it. Anyway,
I'll use that dress again. That's cool.
Yeah, and that's a George
really. Is this what? Yeah.
This is from episode 2, director's chair for Lucas, and they just have his initials. I have also one from Return of the Jedi. That's
cool.
That one says George
E.W.L.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's this is basically one of the legs of a destroyer droid from episode 1. So those were digitally done, of course, but what they do is sometimes they will cast a 3D example and scan that to make the 3D models. So that's what that is. So it's this isn't screen used, but it's one of the legs of the destroyer droids.
Oh, so this is like sort of CGI reference part. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you still get the practicality aspect of it.
Yeah, and they saw that in the earlier shot too. That's for Kashyyyk, and probably be a similar thing. That may have been screen used, but it might just be the reference for the digital effects. And what they do is they just sort of make a model of the strut that holds up the buildings. And the Kashyyyk, there's sort of open air kind of porch thing with these, arches, and so that's
right.
That's from.
That's so cool.
That's from Star Tours before they did the refresh. They had so in the original Star Tours, there are a whole bunch of I think they're called Star Speeders. There's a scene where you see several of them, and so this is one of the ones from that. You can still see the wiring because it had lights and so on.
That's so cool.
And I've seen a couple others of these pieces surface because the scene, they have a whole bunch of them in the original, but then they've since replaced Star Tours. They've refreshed it, so this is the old design from the original Star Tours.
That's cool though. I like that. There's the Greedo hand.
And then that's a.
Oh wow! Is that the one that sat for the 1/6 for the shot that they?
Yes, this is the original from the. What's original is the helmet and the poncho, from the animated sequences for a speeder bike, and it actually is kind of a weird scale. It's like a 14-inch doll scale. This is actually a Twilight doll that I had to search forever to find
That's awesome.
a doll that was the right scale for this thing, because it's not like Barbie size, and it's not like So anyway, but it basically is the miniatures for Leia's poncho and helmet from the speeder bike chase.
Gosh, that's freaking cool. Jason, you talked a lot about like the Luke, the little Luke that's on the speeder bike doing the.
Yeah. So what I did for the fun of it, Gus, is sideshow, the 6 scale. So they had the 6 scale speeder and Luke, and what I bought was I think it's called. Matt, do you remember the name of it? So basically the tool the surface gauge or something.
Surface gauge. Yeah, it's surface gauge.
Yeah. So I kind of did like the setup that Tippett did, where I put Luke on the speeder and then had like the surface gauge at the tip of his head, and just to give it that aesthetic.
Like the animatic kind of thing.
Yeah. So from that shot, basically the shot that this comes from, like the behind the scenes photos that they were using when they were measuring, and
that's so cool.
Cool. Yeah. And if I can find it, I have this related piece. I don't. Oh yeah. Here we go. Let me send you this link. Here, I'm going to put it on the Dropbox again.
Okay.
Basically, just give me a second here. So basically, on that Luke animatic that you see, just upload this. You'll see a file called Luke. So basically, this is such a cool thing, because it's a crossover from the props and the toys. So this is the actual Luke and outfit that ILM used to do the animatic for the speeder bike chase, but it's also, they used a Kenner 12-inch Luke for that. And if you remember that animatic, they have Boba Fett plays the biker scout in that scene. So I don't know if those other pieces have surfaced, but I love this because it's this crossover between the action figures and the special effects models. Even though it just didn't get screen used, it was used in composing the speeder bike chase scene. So,
well, it's interesting because resource-wise, I mean, they really opted for whatever they could that made sense at that time. I mean, almost like taking the Twilight doll to fit, like you make do with what needs to be done. Yeah.
Well, didn't they use a Lee Majors figure for the Sandcrawler? Oh, not
that's
Sandcrawler.
Right.
The speeder bike.
Speeder bike. Yes, they used. Yes,
speeder.
They I forget. Yeah, one of those. Yes, they did use the $6 million man.
$6 million man.
And they used there's a bunch of things. They used Luke, a Luke action figure for like Bespin scenes when he's sort of jumping out of the freeze chamber. So they actually would reuse toys in some of the scenes for the models.
Yeah, we just found out that one of the Skeksis, one of the eyes is a Micro Machine.
TIE Fighter.
TIE
Fighter, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Metal TIE Fighter, yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
This one, just real quick, this one picture I wanted to pull up here.
Oh, yeah.
This is really crazy.
This is, It's so.
Sorry, guys. Is this piece one of the McCory prints from the Super Snipes show?
Yes, it's a Super Snipe. You're very observant. That is a Super Snipe. So Super Snipe did 4 prints, as I think. They did 2 Joe Johnson prints and 2
the 2 Johnsons, the McCory.
Yeah, and these are the McCory one. They did this, and I want to say might have been the X-Wing and TIE Fighter from McCory. So they did 2 of the color sort of lithographs and Super Snipe.
And then like the sketchbook type.
And then it's really obscure. Like Super Snipe was a comic shop in Manhattan that like I guess Lucas was like a co-owner of or investor in or something.
Yeah.
This like comic shop that he really loved, and he was into comics, and you can see that influence in Star Wars. And so after Star Wars came out, they sold this print, and they sold a couple McCory prints and a couple Joe Johnson prints. And so I had one of those prints, and then I had the opportunity to buy an original McCory paintbrush, and so I just had them framed together. The folks that had worked with Ralph McCory had done similar. They had taken McCory brushes and done frame sets, but I said I'll just make my own using one of my favorite and using like a vintage print. So that's sort of what went into this.
That's so cool.
And these prints for that time are amazing quality. I have a set of these, and they're not compared to what you've seen over the years. The way these were done back then for such a sort of really obscure show and prints that were pennies on the dollar at the time.
Yes.
I think $5 or $10. Yeah, they're really great detail.
Definitely not a
that
G clay.
portfolio that they sold a year later or whatever. Like it's like the portfolio, but just bigger and just beautiful print.
It's no G clay, right, Jason?
It's no G. No, I think they're plate. I think they were done on plate, if I'm correct, because the colors really stand out.
The tech they use, it was, I'm not sure.
Gus, you doing okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah,
okay,
it's
cool.
still early out here.
Oh, perfect.
What are you putting up next, Matt?
I'm keeping you guys up.
No.
So yeah,
we can do this for.
Well, that's part of it. Yeah, we just want to be respectful, but
we're enjoying it. Yeah. Let me see. Let me bring up. You know what? Let's do this. This is super interesting. Very random but cool. I like this.
Oh yeah, the cereal room. Yes. This is just one of those quirky things that I just love to collect. If you look for like any theme in my collecting, if there's one thread, it's like I love to find stuff people don't know about that are obscure. And in the around mid '90s, I got into cereal boxes because they're super hard to collect. Like you would think it'd be easy, but like nobody saves cereal boxes. They save the toys from cereal boxes. People do save that, but the premiums they save. The boxes themselves don't get saved. And so in the '90s, I was like, okay, well, let me go try to find all the vintage Star Wars cereal boxes. And the good thing is at that time, there were maybe like 40 different boxes worldwide that had been made up to that point. The thing was that then I sort of was committed at that point. And once they started to make more, there's now over 2,000 cereal boxes from like 120 different countries. So it is now out of control. But it's funny because starting with the special editions, I built this network of friends and fans and other collectors around the world. And when a Star Wars movie comes out, I actually have 300 people worldwide that look for me. And I just go up blast out, go, okay, Rise of Skywalker is out, and then like go find cereal, and then I will pay them for the trouble of finding and the costs and all that.
So some random variation on like Italy or wherever it comes in.
Yeah. So do you
great box art too?
Yeah. Gus, do you try to find the more special edition versions or all of them?
All of them.
Like,
so it's like if they have it in like 250 grams, 375 grams, and 500 grams. I got to get them all. If they make variants of it, I got to get them. So so it's weird. I mean, my vintage set is beautiful and rare, and I don't think anyone has a set that's complete as I have. And I have vintage years they did in the U.S., Canada, Great Britain, Australia, New Zealand, and I think that's it, unless I'm blanking on one. Those were the countries they did them. So it's finite, small number. I actually ironically don't have them all, even the vintage ones. But in each of the C-3PO serials, you see those are all different ones.
Gus, were you involved in a book a while ago that had? I just remember it was like my Bible. Okay, it was. I don't remember the name of it, but it was the first time I was exposed to stuff like this, like boxes and like the C-3PO tape dispenser, and it just had all. And then at the end, it had all the vintage figures and ships and stuff all listed. Yeah. I wish I could remember the name of it.
Steve Sansweet's Concept of Screen and Collectible, or
it might be
a pretty early book. Like he did that like '92. I think he had cereal in that. Steve has done some books where he mixes cereal boxes with other things. So
I might be able to I might have that.
Book might be another one. But yeah, I love this stuff because a lot of this, like this shot's a good one because you have like sort of the middle right. You have the U.S. sort of monster cereals. I particularly love the monster cereals. It was my favorite as a kid.
Yeah.
The top right are Australian boxes, and you can see the differences. Like for example, Rice Bubbles is Rice Krispies in Australia.
Right. Yeah.
Cocoa. Yeah, the
Cocoa Puffs is Cocoa Pops, and like Honey Smacks. I'm not even sure what Honey Smacks. I think is like Sugar Smacks. So it's like, but they have like different sort of characters. Like they have a monkey in Australia instead of Toucan Sam, or not Toucan Sam, Sonny. Sorry, son. and then oh, am I getting it right? Yeah. So sorry. I think I'm mixing brands, but anyway, Rice Krispies, they still use the same characters, and yeah, I think I was mixing the General Mills and Kellogg's. But anyway, the upper left, you see the Canadian version of them. So anyway, I just love that sort of nostalgia of the old cereals, and so
Yeah, that's really cool.
And it sort of tangents onto a different direction, because the primary reason for collecting was initially Star Wars, and you go to something else, and then it starts becoming like a cultural diversity aspect of things. So it just becomes like a wealth of knowledge spreading out beyond, which is fantastic. The box art on some of these is the nostalgia aspect, the sentiment aspect is great. I can't imagine though the cereal inside though. I can't imagine.
No cereal. Yeah, I love the designs from this era, because I think today they sort of ruin them. Like today they do like modern graphic design, which looks good, but like there's something classic about these old box art. Yeah, and it's
like poster design now. A poster design today is very different than what it used to be, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's just a different feel,
3D and stuff like that, which
Yeah.
Has an appeal. But I kind of like the old ones better.
Crazy.
Man, I tell you what, they used to let kids just eat straight up diabetes back in the day, didn't they? Like by the spoonful.
I'm sure those cereals tasted way better than the cereals they have out right now. They changed all the formulas.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. Actual cane sugar.
Yeah.
It's funny too, because like different cultures, I think, have a different sort of take on I mean, a lot of the very sugary cereals, as you've probably observed over the years, they sort of downplay, like, was it like Sugar Smacks? They became Smacks. They get that word sugar out of there.
Exactly.
One of my favorites is that's mostly sold in Latin America is Nestle, who's affiliated with General Mills, has a cereal, Nestle's Crunch cereal. It's basically like candy bar cereal.
Yeah.
And so it's sold in Latin America, but no way you can sell that in the US today. Like, yeah, let's have Nestle's Crunch cereal, with like have the kid just throw milk on a candy bar. So yeah. So it's kind of funny to see that, like, in certain places, like, a very sugary thing is just completely taboo, and in other places, it's like.
Well, it's cool too, Gus, that you have the stuff that came in the boxes as well. Like that sitting in front of it's really cool as well.
Yes.
I'm assuming those boxes are empty. There's no cereal in them.
They are. There's a few cases of sealed boxes, but by and large, almost everything I have is.
The best part is dumping it out and getting the prize.
Yeah.
I mean, that never gets old. I don't care how old you are. That's going to be like, get the prize,
Yeah.
That's
the fun.
Wow.
Yeah. What we used to do in our household was you'd get the cereal straight from the supermarket. So the first, like, I have a brother and a sister, the first one of us to get to the box, you'd see in the pantry a cereal box that was super wide because someone had stuck their hand in.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh man, I didn't get there first.
Dead
Yeah, my sisters do that. Yep.
That is awesome.
Let me pull out the clear bags, the translucent. We still look, and then
yeah.
Oh geez. Let me go. Let's do this guy right here. This is pretty nuts. Hold on one second. This is cool.
Oh yeah, there's a laser pointer from episode 1.
Nice.
This is they used to, in the scenes you see Padme sort of signal to Panaka, and they used the same laser pointer for both scenes, although they're different colors. One of them they digitally altered the color to make it seem like they're two different laser pointers, but basically, it's the actual thing they used.
That's so cool. I love that.
And then
That's
it's
awesome.
a Hoth Rebel cap.
Beautiful.
We can use cap from the very few of them that have the whole intact antenna thingy. But now I have the full costume now of Hoth Rebel. So
yeah, we have a picture of that, Matt. If you want to drop it up, it's
I think. Oh yeah, to show the. Let me see. Do you know where it is?
That's the
yeah.
I put it up in the chat.
Yeah, I got it. Hold on
that
a
I
second.
picked up during the pandemic, so I don't even have that one on display properly yet. It's just sort of sitting in the prototype room, ready for. At some point, I'm going to put it. I have a room where I have costumes, so I'm going to eventually put it. Yeah, that's it there.
Oh, this is so beautiful. What a look. That's so beautiful.
Good Lord.
Yeah, this thing is out of control. Like it's, everything.
No, but looking at this, Gus, it's safe to assume because I've seen enough things. The boots are I mean, is the binoculars, the gloves, everything is straight up.
There's
original.
So almost everything, just about everything's original. The one exception are from the pants. So the boots go up pretty high, like to the knee. So the section of the pants before you get to the sort of the coat, that was a replica just to fill it out. I think everything else is pretty much original.
Okay.
The original, just sort of jacket, and even the what do you call it? The greeblies, all the little
pads.
That's original.
So cool.
Original. The belt grenades original. The rifle is the cap. The
binoculars are fantastic.
Binoculars, yeah, just the binoculars themselves are amazing. Like just an amazing piece. And then he's also got the blaster pistol in the holster. And part of it, in a way, it sort of doesn't do justice when you like the binoculars and the blaster pistol on their own are amazing pieces. But once I got this, I was like, I need to just load this guy up. So I put the macro binoculars on him. I put the rifle on him. I had some of the pieces already, and then I picked this up, and then I was just like, wow, just do the killer, kind of Huth Rebel.
That's so cool.
Beautiful. It looks fantastic. I mean, it's just as aesthetically pleasing as a Vader or a Stormtrooper. He just looks great. And
by the way, it came from the guy that's on the Kenner action figure card. So there was this.
Oh, even better.
Yeah.
Oh,
now
wow.
he thinks it's the one on the card. It doesn't seem to match that one, but it's this costume he saved from. So he was a local guy they hired as an extra to do Empire Strikes Back, and he saved a costume from the filming, and so
that's so cool.
He was 19 years old when they filmed Empire, and that was so. But it'd be awesome if it also matched the Kenner card.
Yeah, that would.
It's that dude. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, and then
I don't know what we're looking at here.
Yeah, this is just stuff like so this is just a coffee table we have that has like a sliding tray, and so I put just more conceptual things like some of these. In the left, you see like different kind of dried fruits and stuff. Those are from Mos Espa fruit stands. The bottom part, the sort of disc and thing, those are from like the Sandcrawler set from A New Hope. Just different set dressing pieces left from
crazy.
That. And then the you can sort of see at the top, those are a Crate Dragon bone. There's a dragon bone there.
Mm-hmm.
That little thing with the red and green buttons, that's you see that in the slave quarter at Mos Espa. Those are like the door, the thing you activate to open the door. So you sort of have these things in this coffee table, just sort of,
yeah, that's cool.
Kind of a fun thing. Yeah,
that's a good idea. It's cool. This is crazy.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wait, is this these are Tarkin's?
Yeah, these are. If you can zoom in, I don't know if you can see it. It's,
I have a hold on. I have a better picture. Hold on. Let me go to this.
Crazy.
Yeah,
I mean,
pants from.
I mean, do you reach a point where I don't know. Is there anything now that do you still get that momentum? Do you still get that like? There's just so many amazing pieces. Do you still come across a piece that's like that just overwhelms you, or do you lose a little bit of that?
Yeah, there's always stuff like I don't know. Yeah, I'm surprised it's been able to. I mean, I'm mindful of at some point, and I've been saying for years and been wrong. It's like at some point this stuff's got to slow down, like because you start to get diminishing returns and you can't find stuff in the same caliber I've been finding.
Right.
And it's weird. I mean, if I look at the last 3 years, it's probably the best stuff I've had in all the year. So it's like every year it seems to get better.
Yeah.
Like so, I don't know. It feels like it's got to peter out, but it hasn't yet for me. I mean,
well, we just talked recently with a couple other collectors about some of the things that are now just being unearthed and found and coming into the scene that just we were assumed to be long gone or just so and you would have over 35 40 years would have thought if something was going to rear its head or peek out, it would have already.
Yes,
but
some things are thinning out, no doubt, but like there's still stuff being unearthed, and it's a challenge, right? It does. You can definitely point to things like prototypes we were talking about earlier. A lot of that stuff's really dried up. Yeah, there's still stuff surfacing, but it's a trickle of stuff. Props similar, and then the prices get kind of crazy too. So you get that effect. but like I don't know, like have not slowed down. Like I mean, seriously, the last several years have been even more active than other years, so I'm still finding stuff. And and I'm perfectly comfortable. And I mentioned this earlier. If there's a piece that's not central to my collection that I wouldn't miss, that's not like a major piece, I've let go of things. A lot of times for space, but sometimes to just say it's easier to rationalize a splurge on something else if I let go of something else to fund it.
Right.
We do that. We all do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And those are the miniature pieces from Han Hoth on the Tauntaun. Since then, more stuff. I have now. I have the what do you call it? The armature for Han Hoth, and I also have the mold. And it's funny because it came from Phil Tippett, who animated the thing. So the jacket and those pieces, the armature and the mold, all came from Tippett from 3 totally different sources. so it's kind of cool. Yeah.
Is that jacket brown or blue?
It's actually blue, which is awesome, right? Like, because you have that whole brown versus blue debate.
Yeah, well, I was just talking to Tom Spina yesterday, and he had the actual jacket in his hand. He's like, "It is definitely brown."
It's definitely brown, the jacket. But it's funny because it's like one of those things. Like if you get a chance to pull it from the Dropbox server,
I'll get it.
Armature in there, but basically. It's one of those things like it's obviously been a fan controversy for years, and people do the counter toy say it's blue and all that. And a lot of the photos it looks blue, but if you look at the costume, it's definitely brown. There's no question. But the miniature is blue. Like it has more blue than brown in the miniature. It's really like a navy blue color, and you can see it from this image. Like that is not a brown color. It has some brown in it though. So yeah.
Which image am I? Oh, the armature.
Yeah, Han Hoth. The one that says Han Hoth.
Got it.
You're able to pull that up.
I got it right here.
So you can see, like now I have the armature that was used, and that armature was used for both Luke and Han. So the figure on the left is one of the sort of figures that they put on the armature, and then I think they just rip it out and then put another figure on it. But anyway, they used that to animate like both Luke and Han on Tauntauns.
That's great.
I love the sculpt. I mean, as crude as it is, it looks like Harrison.
Totally.
Yeah, a little bit. It does.
It does, right? It's got his nose and his mouth. It's got it. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's pretty funny, man. That's a cool. See, those armatures are so cool. Like Regal Robot's making the set, right? The chess set,
Yes.
and that's one of the things where I was like, man, how cool would it be if you had an armature, one of the armatures next to it, or even a replica of the armature next to it. It's so cool. I just like that idea.
It gives it a really nice.
It does. It's really cool. I love it.
And plus, these were all for those watching that don't know. These are all handmade machines. This isn't like something that they just tricketed together. I mean, Phil.
Right.
I mean, these were repurposed, reused, pulled out, put into another. Right, Gus? From what I get together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, apparently these armatures are like. Aren't they made by like hand or something like that? It's like very expensive to make these armatures.
Yes, that's why they reuse them. Because they're super expensive to make.
Tedious work.
And if you see, I just uploaded a couple more images of Han Hoth.
Okay.
You can see other ones at Han Hoth 0 and 1. You can load up those files. So then after I pick up the armature, so I first got the miniature outfit and accessories, then I got the armature, and then most recently in the past year, got the molds to the Han, and that's kind of cool. And you can see it matches that sort of figurine once you take a look at that.
Yep. One second
Yeah.
here, right here.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's the mold, the original mold to it. And
That's crazy.
yeah,
It's unbelievable. All those
so
pieces
cool.
are still together. Like they're still around. Let alone in your collection. Like they're just. It's crazy. All those pieces are there.
Yeah, people just saved. Yeah, and there's the outside of the mold has a you might see that image there too. It's sort of.
Oh, let me see if I can find that one.
Like,
I think it's this one.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, like it says like Ton Rider Master Han Luke, and it has the date and it says Empire. Yeah, so that's
so cool.
It's like a big,
As you got further into acquiring these more unique pieces that were a little bit more in depth in regards to how they made the films, did it give you a little bit more of a deeper appreciation for what you were watching when you realized how difficult and complex
yeah,
it was behind it?
Yeah. Like a few things, like you realize like a few things. One is like every scene, like these special effects scenes, like they spent hundreds of hours just on the miniatures for it, and then shooting it would take weeks to get maybe 12 seconds on screen. Or I mean, it's like there's that, and then you look at something like this mold, that has the date on it, right? It says April 19th, 1979, and you realize, holy crap, these guys were making the mold for this a year and a month before Empire hits the screen. Like you think of like the runway to make, like this is when they're making the mold, right? So like they have to still shoot the effects and all that, and they have like 13 months till the film's coming out. Like nowadays they tend to start earlier and have more runway,
Right.
But like they were right up till the deadline. I mean the
11th hour.
Yeah.
Gus, do you know if PT there is the initials of the sculptor? Maybe.
I think it's Phil Tippett is probably what
Oh,
Phil
okay.
Tippett, yeah.
It makes sense.
that is.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to this one real quick because I know Chris wants to talk about this.
See, Slave Leia costume. On this, the
Custom mannequin, I assume, too.
Yeah, when it came up for this was put up for auction by the person who did the costume for the movies, and the cloth parts aren't original. Those he had kind of replicas, but the pieces in the costume are all original. And basically, it was really cool. So when this came up for auction, it was a lot that had so much stuff. So it had like the original costume on a mannequin. It had a lot of concept pieces, so sculpts of the different pieces. It also had early versions of some of the pieces. It had artwork, sketches of the costume, and photography of like a model wearing the costume. It also had photography of Carrie Fisher when they're doing the hair, setting how they do the hair. It had like measurement sheets where they took like Carrie Fisher's measurements so they could get the costume right. And anyway, the backstory was that this guy had made the costumes. They were filming in England, and Carrie Fisher throughout this time had lost a lot of weight, and so the costume started to become too big for her. So they shipped it back to him, and he had to make alterations, and he made more costumes to ship to Arizona, California-Arizona border where they filmed Jabba's Sail Barge, and he sent new costumes there, and so anyway, so he retained this one, but it's just such an amazing, obviously iconic costume from Star Wars. But like,
was this screen used?
Well, I believe so. He says it was screen used, and it was definitely production made. Whether this particular one was on screen, the person consigning it says it was, and so it's one of those things like, do you know? I don't know for sure.
Right.
But what I loved about it was it came with just like everything for Slave Leia costume.
All the details.
That's so
It's
cool.
a lot seeing it now, standing like this, it's a lot more scant than it is in the film. And she wasn't very well protected as far as her goodies. Yeah, that's
no, it was definitely
Well, there's all the story of if you stood behind, if the guys were standing behind her, they could see right down in through because they could like.
If there were cell phones then, they all would have been doing one of these with the camera.
Yeah, it's the one. It's the guys moving the tail.
Yeah.
They're just moving that tail back and forth. They're all excited,
Yeah, Carrie Fisher makes the joke about that. She says like the Boba Fett could see all the way. That was it was not a very covering costume.
Easily, it's just the problem is they're trying to like erase that a little bit right now, but that costume is just. I mean, who didn't think of that when they were a young kid? I know I did. I still think of it. You know what I mean?
That's
so
just like when I was a kid. No, I was thinking about that last night.
I bought a fake one for my wife to wear at one point.
That's so funny, dude.
That's one of my favorites, Gus. I absolutely when that was up for auction and I had heard you had gotten it, I was floored. I loved it.
Yeah. The weirdest thing was like when when I got it, and I wrote an article for StarWars.com for Lucasfilm to talk about the costume and stuff. But what was funny was all these, you know, it was sort of all these people that were writing about it. Like, one of the questions I got from people was like, "So do you try it on?" And I'm like, "No." Like, a lot of people ask that. And I'm like, "No." But interesting that it's on your mind. Like, yeah, like, a lot of people seem to think that, like, why would I try that? That would be ridiculous.
Well, they're
I would
also
have-
just
It's like, you know, obviously on a lot of people's minds.
I would have a hard time not putting it on my wife for
Have you
that
had
would
it?
be rough not to do. That would be tough.
That's so funny.
I know that a number of people who cosplay Princess Leia said, "Oh, it'd be so cool to try it on or to take measurements of it to make the perfect, you know, Princess Leia costume."
Yeah.
Right,
So
right,
you have
right.
to think circa what, 82, 83, building that. So the reason why she was losing a little bit of weight also comes into
Yes.
question. So,
Yeah.
you know, and I mean that with all due respect, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure
No,
she
like,
knew that she was going to be dressed like that and did work
Yeah,
out,
yeah, she's-
you know,
yeah,
so
no, like actually behind me, I don't know if you can see like, let's try to change the screen. The there's this like thing there that you can see. This is some, that's some of the stuff from the costume in the upper left, and you see the frame has like Carrie Fisher sort of going diagonally down for the hair fitting. You see sketches of the costume on the left, but what's interesting is that sort of sheet you see there. It has all her measurements and stuff, and in that, she's basically 89 pounds at the time we took the measurement.
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
Tiny. I mean, yeah. I mean,
How
it was.
how tall is she?
I think it says there something like 5'1", something like that.
Jeez!
5'1.5", I think is what it's.
Wow!
Yeah,
89,
that.
89 pounds.
yeah, 89
When we,
pounds.
walked, when we were doing that prop store auction, those checks, I told you.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, that's R2. Yeah, so those are the eyes on it are all original from original trilogy, and then it's on a prequel dome, like a production made, not finished dome, and so had one of the folks that worked on the films just attached, like paint the dome. This is similar to that Vader helmet we looked at before, where it's like I didn't want to like finish an R2 dome since it wasn't used, to just sort of get one in a neutral color and then put the original pieces on it. So
that's cool.
Those. Yeah, it's great that you took that approach with the Vader helmet, the even the image for the Emperor, to emphasize the specific pieces that, you know, the focus. This is what you should focus on. Great way, because I think most people would want to try to dress it up and then add to. But I like that it's like here's a piece.
The problem I have, I mean, to each their own, but the problem I have with the dressing it up is like, say you did it on this, then your attention would be drawn to things that are all replica. And
yes, you're taking away from the focal points.
Yeah, because it's like there's so much more other detail there. And so, like, then you're basically looking at a replica with a few original pieces, which for some people is more appealing. Like, you know, for me, it's a judgment call. Like, if it were 85% original, I'd probably then complete the replica stuff out, which is like what, you know, the Hoth, you know, Rebel costume we looked at before.
Right.
Example of that. I think there were a couple other pieces that were like that, where there's like a piece that's completed, and in that case I do it, but like in this case, most of it, the volume is not the original part, so I want to draw the attention to the original part.
Yeah, and I think it's a fantastic way of displaying the focal points, per se. Yeah, it's interesting. I love it.
Yeah, it's a Cantina band mask.
So cool.
Yeah, original from.
Is that like a latex?
It's
foam?
not foam latex. It's
Okay.
it's called slip latex, which is
Okay.
Doesn't deteriorate. So the foam latex stuff is the stuff that's usually a disaster years later. A lot of the Cantina stuff was slip latex, which generally has held up quite well over the years. So that one's in pretty good state.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And that's
There's the belt, huh?
Yep, that's I mentioned the Tuscan mask. This is the other piece he had. What was awesome about Luke's belt was obviously the screen match, but like every scene, like I went through the DVD, every scene with Luke matched this belt, like with Luke, where Luke's in his Tatooine outfit, matched this belt.
Crazy.
So it was like, wow, not only does this screen match, I don't think there was another belt. I think this is the only belt they used.
Wow.
And then years later, I found out that, yeah, like if you look at a lot of the photography of Hamill wearing the costume, there's some photos of him for like posters and stuff, like at the time of the filming, and he's wearing this belt. But a year or so later, you can tell they no longer have the belt because they have a different belt. But like, there's so many things. Like, if you even from this photo, you can sort of tell, like on the large pouch, there's sort of that black sort of diagonal tab there that you see in a bunch of shots. Like, it's just so distinctive on screen. And then the one where Luke's on the ground in the towards the middle, you see like sort of scratch marks at the bottom of the pouch there, and those scratch marks match, sort of the one near the buckle. So anyway, and then the details on the buckle match. I mean, it's incredible. Like, this thing is like easy as hell.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's amazing. I like this display too. I like that it's like kind of a cutout.
Oh yeah, that was
type of display. It's really cool.
I had the framers that do the stuff for Prop Store make this for me, and it was interesting because the way, I worked with them back and forth to design how we wanted to do the frame, and I did not want to ship Luke's belt. I just did not want to risk this thing getting lost.
Sure.
Heck no.
And I know at the time I hadn't had any trips to London, so it was getting done in London, and so we did this all through email, like by just doing measurements and photos. Like, I just gave them lots of measurements, and they asked more questions, and they were able to make this like perfect display for it, just from specs. Like, they didn't actually have the belt in their hands, and so and it's actually a lot harder than it seems because different parts of the belt have different weights, and so to make clips that can hold it down and all that, but they nailed it. I mean, it's just a perfect display.
Oh, it's spot on. And this is a rather small belt because I actually just learned, I think the other day, that Mark at that time only had like a 20-inch waist.
Yeah, it's definitely not it's definitely not.
The kids have bigger waists than that.
Yeah, but when flattened out, it's pretty big. But it's as belts go, it's not a very wide belt.
That's crazy.
Beautiful work, though.
Yeah, and that's a
wow.
Well, actually, most of the stuff's prequel there. There's a One A New Hope piece. So the eyes and Jawa cloak and bandolier are all prequel. And then the sort of powder thing that's hanging lower, that's from A New Hope. And so, just pieced it from a few different sources. And then this is on display right now at the Mopop Museum in Seattle. So the Mopop Museum has like a bunch of science fiction stuff and pop culture things. And every once in a while, I'll loan them pieces. And so they have the Jawa on display there right now.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they redo that, they make replicas of these, get the opening of the face kind of wrong. It's kind of got that like rounded, it's tough to get, I think. It's really cool.
Yeah. And with the Jawas, they did alter them in A New Hope and in the prequel trilogy. But yeah, you do notice in cosplay, there's certain things in cosplay that people nail it and get it right every time. And there's certain things that tend to get wrong. So a lot of the Tatooine stuff tends to be off. Like Jawas and Tusken Raiders, like when you have the originals, you realize how bad.
Yeah.
But then there's other things, like I would say, like on Imperial helmets and stuff. Those are
funny.
Great. The stuff the 501st, like so, some of the cosplay Rebel Legion 501st have it down, and then some things they struggle with, like Imperial officer costumes, matching the colors and stuff. Are a lot of times they're bad. Like if you look at the Tarkin pants, like some of them go way too far into grays and some go into green. I mean, a lot of it's being a stickler on authentic, but like there's just a certain look of the color of Tarkin's pants that very few people ever really match quite well. So it's interesting.
Killer.
I would want his slippers to go with that.
That's
pants.
right.
I know. I was thinking that.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
That's so cool.
Harrison Ford chair back.
Look at the bunker bomb.
Yeah.
Don't ask him to sign this, though. He's not going to sign this.
probably cost more than a chair to sign.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Rebel grenade. That's actually, I have 3 of those now, but this is the one they do a close up of in Return of the Jedi. So when they do a close up and they turn it on, this is the one you can screen match into that scene. So it's the close up one.
Oh, the top. Okay, so the metal top is pretty. It seems thicker than some of the others.
Well, yes. So it's a good point. The guy who had it put this little. I should probably just take that rubber thing. He put like a tire tread type thing on top of it. I think to make turning it
Like a grip.
he added this extra grip. I think it slides right off, but like basically the others are just a small cylinder.
Right.
But like on screen you don't see that rubber grip to it, but it has working electronics and stuff. So
I like the way you encased it too. I like that.
yeah, and those are some of the Star Wars Fan Film Awards and some of the.
That's cool.
We had Celebration collecting track for presenters. That's and these are pieces.
Oh wow.
3PO.
Crazy.
Yeah. It's funny. For years it's just like, it's nice to have like examples of like, different, I like to get sort of examples of different characters, and then the bar sort of goes up each, as it find better and better pieces and stuff. And like basically, one thing that's interesting is, so I've had this, and then I've picked up actually some even more impressive costume pieces for C-3PO. So I actually pulled things out of this frame. So I'm actually working on completing a C-3PO. So I have pretty much everything and as far as I know, no one in the world has a full C-3PO outside of Lucas. And so now I have, let's see if I can find a picture, but now I have basically everything on a full-size C-3PO except his right arm, left hand, and 2 of the shoulder strips. So
you could always get a red arm.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right.
Good, yeah.
What's interesting about the eyes on this, Gus, if I remember correctly, still when they were using a lot of the turntable parts, it was assumed at one point that they were just, buying these pieces, but I guess they were in the process of prototyping. So they were giving them the additional pieces, and then at that point for 3PO's eyes, they actually went in because they were machining the turntable parts in house, and they machined 3PO's eyes in house. Correct?
I don't know. You probably know better than I do. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how they made them. It could very well be. Yeah. But yeah,
there's a quick little documentary. It's pretty old. It goes back about 15 years on is it, how do you pronounce it? Was it Michelle or the Turntable Company, where they got a lot of the parts from like R2 and Boba Fett?
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, and it's interesting. With Rico, what I found so interesting is, like I said, a lot of people thought, with the found parts aspect, that they were just buying these turntables. They were very expensive because they were custom made and higher end turntables. And what they were doing is they were in the process of prototyping and working on their next, their model up. And Lucas, the guys wherever were getting those parts, and then it got to a point where they machined a lot of their stuff in house. And they had come to us and they machined 3PO's eyes specifically for them,
cool.
Based on the sculpt and whatnot. But the brass, because they're actually brass, aren't they, or something along those lines?
Yes, it's like a brass. I think it's brass. That's right.
Yeah. Beautiful display there too.
I like that display. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So
there it is. It's close.
Yeah, there's a grenade up close. Yeah, that's the one you see on screen.
Looks like tank treads up there.
It also looks like the tape that they put around the Graflex to hide Graflex. It looks like it's got that chrome tape almost.
Yes. I think you're right. I think you have a good eye for that. Like that. That's I think the tape is not original too. I think he added those 2 things to it, which is weird. Like, why would you mess with it? But these people are collectors. They just sort of the people working on the films just.
Those are definitely rubber tank treads up there from a model kit.
Yeah. That's probably right. Yeah, that's what they used. But those were added later. Yeah. So,
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yoda,
oh wow!
Yoda's
okay.
cane.
Yeah, this is like Yoda's cane from the prequels, and episode 1. And actually, only in episode 1 is there like a 3D Yoda, because by 2 and 3 they did CG. But basically, this is the
Gus.
cane. Yeah.
Crazy.
Does it ever end? There's so many things that are just
many things I know.
Each one is like,
it's amazing.
Oh man.
Yeah, no, I mean,
oh my gosh.
We run into this when we do tours, because like people are like, what do you think is going to take an hour? Like, no.
Is this
a little longer?
Is this displayed all throughout your house?
All throughout the house, yeah. Okay. So we have.
Yeah. So you live in
a pretty big house, and then we built a building in the back with sort of a garage 6 collectibles rooms to display, and my wife collects stuff too, and so we each got 3 rooms in that building, and then yeah, so we have like a ton of space for stuff, and so it's all throughout the house. So,
Do you have a job and collect, or do you?
yeah, I do have a job.
Like
and
you're
collect.
part
Yes.
of. You work for something like Lucasfilm, or
I wish I. Yeah, I mean, I wish and I don't wish. Like yeah, I mean, I have a job, that keeps me very busy. I actually am extremely busy, and work crazy hours. But I do this all in my spare time. Years
Yeah,
ago,
that's cool.
I had a lot more time, less money, but more time. And so yeah, but yeah, I work full time. I don't do anything related to Star Wars.
okay.
Technology. But yeah, I just do this for fun.
That's so cool.
Oh, okay,
Desktop
man.
model
These are the metal plate. Yeah, these are the metal plates I was telling you about earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really
The construction details. So,
So cool.
Gus, I saw a few of these floating around over the last couple of years, and
Yeah.
picked one up randomly,
Yeah.
and it was pretty inexpensive. But I just, because it was so inexpensive, I was kind of curious. So I'm glad that we're coming across this. I guess there were quite a few of these, the way they layered them.
Yes, that's right. They had lots of them.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean the way they, like when you see Return of the Jedi and you see the unfinished Death Star, you get that really cool effect of like the sort of metal pieces of the unfinished part. And what they did is they just took these, like, I think it's brass, like the brass sort of etchings.
Yeah.
And they just, that's how they did the unfinished Death Star. And so they made lots of these pieces. And so there's a few of them around, but they're, but yeah, such a cool look that's very unique to that Jedi Death Star.
Yeah, I just bought some recently, like I think within a year, and but again, because of, you just assume with certain things like, oh, the price should be, but because it was such a, it was a pretty decent deal, it was sort of questionable, and then I started doing research and realized, for the construction aspect, the visual aspect of that, they were layered in such a way. But yeah, I didn't realize how many got out there. Yeah, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, there's the dome again. Oh, I hear some forward. What's this?
I thought a lot of the stuff is this plane.
Yeah, this is like a belt from Carrie Fisher's Return of the Jedi Endor costume. So
cool.
It's basically it's not the main belt, but it's like there's some smaller belts, and so you can see like it has like Blue Harvest, 1982, BH.
Oh yeah.
Number 3. Like so this
Cool.
came many years ago from somebody who worked on the crew, and so that, yeah, it's just one of the
That's cool.
They went all the way in on that Blue Harvest to the point where even costuming and all the departments had, wow.
And it was only for the U.S. So the whole idea was, if you're going to film a Star Wars movie, although it's hilarious because the Blue Harvest logo, like if you didn't know and you just saw Blue Harvest logo, like, oh, there's a new Star Wars movie called Blue Harvest because it's total Star Wars.
The font, yeah.
But
well, I was curious because Blue Harvest was Return of the Jedi, but then some of the clappers, for example, said Revenge of the Jedi. So I didn't know that it was U.S. only versus other territories. Okay.
Yes. So like
Makes
the
sense.
stuff in England would be Revenge of the Jedi.
Revenge, yeah.
And this, anything they did in studio lots and stuff they didn't need Blue Harvest, but all the on location stuff. So the stuff near Yuma, Arizona for the sail barge scenes, and then all the Endor stuff, that was all under Blue Harvest because they're going to film in the U.S. So when they book the company, they want to just hide they're doing a Star Wars movie. Even though, of course, obviously, I mean, I don't even remember at the time as a kid watching news reports when they were building the sail barge set. I remember seeing that on the news before they even filmed it. They already had news crews that figured out that they're filming a Star Wars movie on the border of California, Arizona. So like it was already known then. Blue Harvest thing didn't cover anything up really.
Yeah.
We tried.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So this is go ahead, Jay.
I was gonna say this is a unique piece that we tend to have a lot of fun with because as things progress, especially like with a trilogy, things tend to get better and more refined.
Yes.
But ironically, the Stormtrooper helmet seems to be the one thing that went in reverse design-wise.
Yeah.
The helmet,
At least to the eye aesthetically, it just doesn't have the same appeal. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is
Very
this is a Hero Return of the Jedi helmet from that was basically Dickie Beers, the stuntman who also did Boba Fett in the Sarlacc pit, and he did Weequay. He did a bunch of roles. And this is the Stormtrooper helmet that he used and kept after the film, and it's a hero one, so it has like the curved lenses and a lot of more detail than the stunt ones from Jedi.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, it's
So
fantastic.
Cool.
Oh, okay, wow.
These are like the molds, basically, so they would sort of cast over that to make the miniatures.
Pyros.
So now those are the actual, because we actually just had Jason Eaton on the other evening, and we would, this is
and Jason actually, long story, but basically the sort of, this is on like a plexi case, and in shipping it to an exhibit and shipping it back, the thing got damaged, and so what Jason did is he took the two halves and sort of in repairing it, like basically put it on like a thing that will hold it, and so now it actually displays together. But basically, these are the molds. These are the molds to the X-wing that were the masters that were basically used for the studio scale models.
Crazy.
Oh, fantastic! And again, a great way to display it, because it's more of an informative way of getting some of that story and aspect.
Gus, it seems like you might not. It makes you not want to send stuff to museums and stuff, right?
Yes, there's that.
I mean, geez,
that was the only time I think that's ever happened to me. But part of it is that and the way it just wasn't packed very well, so it just got damaged. We sort of, at the time, I was sort of like, oh my god, like I can't believe this happened. But like, Jason was able to restore it. It worked out okay in the end. I was a bit freaked out when I unpacked it, because there was damage to the piece, like some of the pieces had come off and stuff, but Jason was able to restore it quite well, so it worked out fine in the end.
That's funny. We had him on the other day, and now he's restored one of your pieces.
Yep.
We always joke that he's kind of like the Tom Spooner of the model world versus like the creature world. That's like that balance where, because he can just work magic on certain things, and it's phenomenal.
Yes. Yeah. Totally.
Wow, look at that! Yeah, so the variations of the bunker bombs and what?
These are
fun stuff.
This is interesting. So this I got. There's a funny story with this. So somebody called me who was the son of somebody who'd worked on the movies, and he said that he had basically two of the bunker bombs and the ammo case. And the ammo cases, you see them in if you look for them, you can see them in the film. It's actually what Harrison Ford throws one at that Imperial officer that goes over the rail. Like it's one of these ammo cases.
Yeah.
So but basically the guy said, hey, I got this, I'd love to sell it. I said, yeah, great, I'm interested. So he said, look, I live near like Burbank Airport, and so I said, well, you know what, I could fly down for the day, we could do the deal, and then I'll just meet up in like a Starbucks or something, and then I'll fly back and with it, because I don't want to ship it, and I don't want to all that.
Yeah.
So I'll just take his carry-on luggage, and then so that we do the deal, hang out, talk a bit, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get back on my plane. I'm like, wait a minute, I just bought two things that look like grenades.
Oh, right, yeah.
Oh, no.
It's a bad idea.
What do? Do I check it in luggage and then I risk losing it? Or do I
that'd be bad.
Take it as carry-on and then it looks like I'm trying to bomb a plane and then TSA freaks out? So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go for it. I'm going to
go for it.
And so, if you look at these things, they look like bombs, right? Like,
sure.
At the minimum, TSA is going to screen this thing.
Do they turn on? Do they have the electronic? That's even worse.
Were you getting the stairs? You must have got some stairs, right?
Well, I had it in a bag, so it was at least concealed.
Oh, okay.
But so anyway, what's funny is like I go to do the go through the X-ray machine, put it in a bag, and it just. I don't know how many times they've stopped me for ridiculous things at the airport. This just whizzed straight through, no questions. Just
crazy.
God.
So they stop you for the toothpaste, but the bunker bombs go through.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm like horrified that people can just like go onto a plane with something like this and not be.
Yeah, they tackle the lady behind you with the water bottle.
That's right.
You walk onto the plane with bunker bombs.
Strip search them, cavity search.
The funny part is also, so then a few years later, Like I know some of the folks who work at IMDb, and they do an event at San Diego Comic-Con on this. They rent like a boat and they do like exhibits, and so they wanted to have some Star Wars props on exhibit. And I said, well, I'm going down to San Diego, and I need to take something portable. I don't want to take big props, so I don't have to check it in luggage. So I'm like, all right, I gotta get on a plane again with this thing. So I like, all right, I've done it before, I'll do it again. So I take it on the plane to San Diego, one of these bombs, and on the plane back, none of those trips were they ever stopped. So it's like 3 flights I've done now with grenades, and nobody ever stops me with it. And you can see with those grenades that we were talking earlier about the knob and stuff. They don't have like the tank tread or the tape on the. If you like zoom into that, like you can see that's the original look.
Yeah, what's interesting is we have a replica of one of these.
Yeah.
And that we actually just got recently. And I was like, when I first got it, because we had someone paint the thing that was a really good painter, and the knob, like the thing under the knob, that silver piece is like clean. Yeah. It's very clean. It's like super clean. And I'm like, is that how it looks for reals? And Jason was like, yeah, that's how it came. It's so weird how it's like rusted on top, but like completely clean below it. It's crazy.
Yes.
It's really interesting. Yeah.
It's all based on the parts used, but yeah, and this sci-fi or not, gaming on a plane, this does look very questionable. If you're getting through TSA, so that's a funny story,
yeah. I mean, TSA, they do important work, but it's like you can sort of also tell it's a bit of theater too.
What are they made of? What are they made of?
Yeah.
Just like I don't know. I know some folks like know the replica prop people are actually usually know more than the original prop people. They've identified some of the parts, but so I'm not sure what it's kit bashed from. But it's plastic. It's like
plastic.
Yeah.
I was gonna say if it's metal, it's a totally different story.
Yeah.
There's that. Yeah. So.
Well, guys, I mean, I feel like we've gone pretty long here, and guess I want to be somewhat respectful of your time. I think we've already passed the line of being respectful of your time, but but I just want to say I greatly appreciate you coming on and giving your time for even this couple hours. It's just been a pleasure talking with you and going through your collection, and it's
happy to do it.
It's just very fun talking with to Star Wars with someone like you, especially that's just gotten some crazy pieces and some awesome stories behind them, and it's just really cool. And we really appreciate it.
The knowledge and the learning and all that is fantastic. And Gus, again, being patient and just sort of interacting, and I know how busy you were, and trying to be respectful of that, but yeah, it really was fantastic to be able to sit and go over some of these things. I do have an odd question. I know I asked a few throughout the show, but with a collection like this, it's obviously pretty significant, pretty important in a lot of ways, other than how we see it. What are the thoughts like when that time comes? Do you have an idea of, is this something that goes into like a museum or gets? I mean,
that's a good question. I get asked that a lot. My preference is that it goes in a museum and stays together in a permanent collection. It's sort of easier said than done. You can donate a collection to a museum, and then, that's always an option. But like, if you want to do it where it's sort of preserved and displayed, and it's harder. Like if you have to sort of be involved in doing it, it's a bit harder. It's expensive and complicated to do a museum.
It is upkeep and maintenance and
So, I don't have firm plans yet, but it is something I spent some time thinking about, and my ideal would be that it's in a publicly accessible place. I'm fine with it being in a museum setting with other things that aren't necessarily my collection, but
sure.
That's what I think is the ultimate. I don't think all collectors necessarily aspire to do that. And there's in the past when I've dabbled in other things I collect, like I wouldn't do that with other things I collect. But I do acknowledge that a lot of my collection has stuff that unique things that should probably be preserved and kept together, because it's together it has a different impression than it wouldn't be the end of the world that things got eventually sold off, but like that's not my preference. I'd rather have it displayed together. So much effort has gone into putting it together, so that would be my goal. But it's a lot harder than to do. So that's the challenge with it. But it's something I'm definitely thinking about.
Yeah, it's definitely more complicated than people assume. But I feel like at this point, with the significance of it, in addition to as a collector, you're also like now a steward of the piece.
Yes.
Like it's one of those things. Like So I was just it was more out of my own curiosity for something.
Yeah, it'd be cool to have it in a permanent exhibit though, where people could always see it, and I mean that would be awesome. Like that's what I'd prefer. And so there's something I'm going to spend some time planning and thinking of. Next several years, I'm going to try to give some thought to long-term plans for it. The other thing is that I'm still actively picking up stuff pretty extensively, so it's a sort of having a permanent place would also help in that regard, because then it would be like more space and then
Gus, you say you're still picking up. Guess you say you're still picking up a lot of pieces. Are you going more towards movie props or vintage?
Mixed,
prototypes and stuff.
Yeah, there were a couple big auctions the last 3 days, and so I'd say about almost a half of the stuff I picked up were props, and then almost a half were like cast and crew items, and then the last sliver was a store display I picked up. So vintage store display. So I'm still picking up in multiple categories.
I was in that today. I was actually lucky enough. The last few auctions I had a hard time, but I actually picked up a couple of art pieces in this last one. Joe Johnson. Pieces.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, and great deals considering the size and for what they are, the imagery. So pretty happy about it.
Yeah. Like some of the ones today, like
it's so intense. It's so like like everything gets the whole world around you has to stop, and it's like
it's hard. Like I had to take a break from work and certain hours to just be focused and be on the phone. I like to do phone bidding if I can, but there were some lots, especially the cast and crew stuff. It goes so high now. I'm like, you know what? Somebody else wants it more. Let them.
Yeah.
Like it's already gone too high. But it's good. So I'm still actively picking up stuff. The good thing is in these auctions the last 3 days, I had pieces I was just not as into that I let go of also in the auction. So I did the math, and I think by I actually bought a lot of stuff the last 3 days, but in stuff I sold, it's about like $2 above the amount that I bought. So it was like, oh wow,
amazing.
Just a wash. That's awesome.
And so it worked out. You don't know it's going to work out, but it ended up working out well.
That's so cool. Well, thanks again. Gus, really appreciate your time again. And Jason, Chris, appreciate you guys. Appreciate your time as well. And thank you everyone for hanging out in the chat. I know it's been a long one, but it was something we needed to do. Yeah, it was worth it. And I hope everyone watching afterwards enjoys it. So we'll be back with something else a little later, maybe tomorrow and maybe next week. We'll see. But thanks again, Gus, and we'll see you guys later. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.